And I am alive. Tonight we are covering a Glenn Beck video, and it exposes the No King's plot, which is something I have no idea what it's going to be. It's Dragon that shows this video, and we will get right into it. I am very curious about that matter, so let's screen share what we are reacting to tonight. Hopefully, the dragon will show up at some point. There we go. Screen share. There we go. I really have no idea whatsoever what we are getting into. Hopefully, it will be good content, the kind of content people tune in and enjoy watching. So let's get into it. There we go. I basically muted right now because of the music, so let's...
Past weekend was the No Kings protest. Wasn't that exciting? Now, the best way I can think of to tell you what's really going on.
So, No Kings protest. My only experience with it was in Canada when people were pissed at Donald Trump and they decided to march in the street and create a No Kings protest, which is ironic because we are still under a British monarchy. The king is still our king here in Canada, even if his power is quite diminished from way back then. So it's hilarious. This is my only experience with the No Kings protest. So let's see if this is another thing or if it's more of the same. So yeah, let's get into it.
On here is to tell it in the way Shakespeare would do it, in a 3-act play. And here are the 3 acts tonight that you'll see. You'll see useful idiots, intellectuals and organizers, and finally, follow the money. Okay? So, I'm going to get through all of this, what's happening, and to truly understand what's happening, not only here in America, but in the entire world. Really important you understand that. You need to look at all 3 of these things, not just the street thugs, okay? Not only where the money is coming from. Tonight, I'm going to give you a couple of names that you need to know, and I'm also going to give you a couple of new books that I think you should read. And just like Thomas Jefferson and the way he thought about the...
So I will be honest, I have no idea who these people are, but I guess that's part of me watching this and kind of reacting. I really don't know what he's talking about. I guess it's revolution, and it's happening in countries. So let's hear more about what he had to say about that. There's a comment right now. What about video? Unclear. That question is not so clear, my friend. So I guess we will play more of that, and then I will be reacting to whatever he's trying to say.
He had the Quran published and wanted everyone to read, not just excerpts, the book. Read it, because he said, if you understand what they are talking about here, it might be our first foreign war, but if we're not careful, it will also be America's last foreign war. So
a minute and a half into this, and I can already tell it's the culture war, right versus left, and I guess this is what we are covering tonight. That seems interesting. Hopefully the dragon will show up at some point. So let's play more of that now.
Let's really understand what we're dealing. We need to know this material back and forward. So I'm going to bring in an expert here in a few minutes when it comes to following the money, because where does the money trail actually end? Peter Schweitzer is here to break that all down. But I want to begin tonight with Act 1, Scene 1. Useful idiots.
There's so many of them. It doesn't matter which country. Useful idiots are why we can have incompetence in charge and people will not complain. So these are the useful idiots. The useful idiots is the people that took all of the jabs and still ended up being sick after that. Yes, this is the useful idiots. Hopefully, the ones he is mentioning right now. I know countries that are filled with such people in them. Yeah, let's play more of that now.
No King's organizers, who we'll get into in Act 2, estimate now, I love this, nearly 7 million people showed up for the demonstrations all across the country. Now, I highly doubt that's how many showed up, but let's just say, okay, that's what they're saying. 7 million people. That's roughly 2% of the population. Now, keep that number in mind, because I'm going to come back to that number, 2%.
Speaking of protests, another great example of useful idiots. All of the people that stand by Venezuela and Maduro. Maduro was a dictator, and yet we got the useful bunch, the useful stupids. They stood by a dictator, and then they complain about the USA being a dictatorship. Make it make sense. People. I will never understand them. I will never understand them. Maybe you guys in the USA can have a No Kings protest, but I'm sorry, if you're in Canada or even in the freaking UKs or Europe, whatever, having that kind of protest just shows how stupid you can be. Just saying that. So, let's play more, and hopefully you will expand on that. I don't have much more to say, so let's play that.
Percent in a second. These protests, strategically, they were set up in cities all over the place, and attendees consisted of mostly old.
I don't really know the map in the USA and how your district works. I just know Democrats and Republican, but I can bet where's the most dots is where they vote Democrat. I could make a bet on that. I wouldn't be surprised. I might be wrong. So if we got the USA in the chat, please let me know. Is the place with the most dots a Democrat state? Let me know. That'd be very fun as a thought experiment. So let's play more of that about these useful idiots that do No Kings protests.
Older white people, aka 60 eras, super hippies. But in summation, the Speaker of the House gave a pretty good description of the attendees. Listen to what he says.
Tomorrow, the Democrat leaders are going to join for a big party out on the National Mall. They're going to
the Democrats. So I was freaking right. It's actually up there. Proved me right. The place with the most dots vote Democrat. You guys are useful idiots. I'm sorry to say that. I'm sorry to offend you. But that's how I view you guys now that vote blue. So, I guess, because again, in the USA, blue is Democrats, blue states, Democrat state. Very useful to the establishment, one can say. So, let's play more.
descend on our capital for their much anticipated so-called No Kings rally. We refer to it by its more accurate description, the Hate America rally, okay? And I'm not sure how anybody can.
So here's the thing. I'll let you know. If you hate America, save some money if you can. Or go in a poorer country because your currency will be quite good. So go live there. If you hate so much where you live, go elsewhere where you think it's better. You like so much Canada and how we are so progressive? Come here. You will see how it feels to be taxed until you cannot breathe anymore. So, I speak by experience. I cannot stand Canada anymore. I am saving money for guess what? I want to go move to the States. Just saying. So, yeah, again, you don't like your country? Yes, leave. Come back when you got a Democrat in power. if it's just a matter of who's in charge. So let's play more of that now.
Refute that. If you think about what's going to happen here tomorrow, you're going to bring together the Marxists, the socialists, the Antifa advocates, the anarchists, and the pro-Hamas wing of the
Antifa. Each time I hear Antifa, I laugh. I laugh because these are extremist people. They're all about tolerance, right? Except if you're on the other side of the aisle. If you're on the other side of the aisle, they will try to put a bullet in you. This is how Antifa thinks. This is how they act. This is how they are. Their only response is shooting. And I feel like it also goes back to what we already mentioned already a few minutes ago. The useful idiot. I think most of the Antifa folks are useful idiot for the progressive. Because I don't think you guys are progressive anymore. But hey, believe what you want. To each their own.
far left Democrat Party. That is the modern Democratic Party.
What did you just say? Marxists, socialists, anarchists, and Islamists are now working together to destabilize the United States. Gee, that sounds familiar. You know, if he would have said that destabilization would cascade all over the world and then onto our shores, it would have been half the monologue from every monologue I did at Fox back during the Arab Spring. But I'm glad government is now catching up. It's unfortunate that it has to happen in real time. You know, I wish it would have happened back in 2011 because we wouldn't be here. But at any rate, the useful idiots showed up on Saturday by the thousands. And now I've broken this group up into two categories. I have the dangerous idiots, okay? And to break it down into super smart language, these people...
I need to have my face there. The dangerous idiot. You just edited me right out on the spot. Like, I think the extremists are indeed very dangerous. It doesn't matter if you're far left or far right, you are dangerous. So that depiction there, by law, very soon in Canada, will be a crime. So maybe I will be in jail. I don't know. But so the dangerous is the Marxists. So these are the folks that want the people to be so depressed and crushed that they surrender to whoever is in power. This is the Marxist way. You make the people so miserable that they will accept anything. Socialist. Let's give money to everyone so everyone has their fair share. Okay, the concept is very cool. But who's making that transfer of wealth? Well, it depends on how you truly make the process. Because in reality, if your process is a top-down approach and a body, a government has all of that money, and that body, that government is the one that decides how that wealth transfer is made, but then you may run into corruption. You may run into issues where, yeah, people will all be broke evenly, except if they are in power. So the socialist way went wrong. And again, the idea of socialism is interesting to see, to really say the least. But when you really get into it, doesn't work so well. So anarchists, they don't want any government. Good luck with that. Because if you have a hole, if the government is destabilized and destroyed, something else may replace it. And maybe, just maybe, things will get worse. And the Islamists, we all know the Islamists, they think their religion should rule everything. So they are the far right spectrum. The Islamists, when you really think about it, the Islamists are actually far right. Because they want their religion to rule over the people. Because it's all about religion, all about conserve our old ways. And we shall crush anyone that tries to do something different. So now, that segment here is destabilizing. because that's what he mentioned. And I feel like a lot of protests, especially that No Kings protest, is only to say, look, it's not a legitimate regime, even if they got elected on a democratic way. They're not legitimate, right? Like, people voted for Republican, and the worst than that, Republican are fulfilling their promises to the electorate. Crazy, right? But of course, the dangerous idiot, as described in this video, are not happy because their Kamala Harris didn't win. So, what happens? Well, a lot of people don't like the USA to strive and to be the hegemony. And I've seen a lot of weird people out there that thinks we shouldn't have any hegemony, we shouldn't have any superpower, we shouldn't have someone that rules them all, and everyone should be equal, every country should be on the same footing. They don't follow history. Look back. We had Rome, we had Alexander the Great, we had the British, the French, and more recently, the USA. And who wants to rise up? China. They want to rise up. Will they take it? Hopefully not, because I don't think it's great when you really look at facts, what's going on there with their conditioning centers. It's terrible. And thank you, Michael, to bring this up. Ottoman Empire. Yeah, for sure. So, Doberman, I know you got stuff planned, but if you want, you got the link. But what happens is the USA right now are more powerful than ever, I'd say, simply because they decided, you know what, enough of the BS all around. We are taking charge of the continent, because this is what they are doing by kicking out China from their neighboring places, except for Canada, you know. But so we got like the Marxists and the socialists, and I'd say even the anarchists, like these three dangerous idiots that create destabilization. They just don't like the right. They don't like Trump. They don't like any Republican, even if they may have great ideas, even if they may restore the country the way it should be. They don't like them. And you got the Islamists. Them it's just they don't like the Republican because they don't let religion dictate every single aspect. And the Republican, let's be honest with that, they won't go on a delete spree of minority and LGBT. It won't happen. But Islamists, they will eliminate any minority simply because they want to be the only one in charge. So that's why they will push for destabilization. All of these actors want to destabilize for different reasons. We got most leftists because they cannot stand the right. We got the Islamists because it's not their right, which is hilarious. So now we got the Doberman. We are reacting to quite a very interesting video about No King's protest. Do you remember when Canada did the same? I was laughing. Do you remember No King's protest?
Oh yeah,
Doberman?
of course I do. Especially, we're Canadian, so you know, us having an actual king, that means nothing to us, actually. But at the same time, you know, it's so stupid. It's mind blowing that we actually talk about a No King's protest. It is so silly.
Well,
I kind of wish we had a king. I kind of wish we had a king. Kind of.
Well, okay, Carney is kind of acting like one. Anyway, what I gotta say is, we got useful idiots, and we also got dangerous idiots, as this video says. So before we play more, because I feel like we talked about destabilization a lot, do you want to add anything, or do you want to expand on anything you heard me saying earlier?
Oh no! I just popped in, so let's let it go. And trust me, I will have lots to say.
amazing. I like that.
I always have lots to say.
That's why you're there. Dude, since you came in the circle, I like it so much, man. Our time together is fun. It's like
I love hanging out with you, dude.
It's-
You're one of my favorite people now.
I wish you were in my province, man. We could actually hang out together like in person.
Oh,
But
fuck yeah.
You're too
Hell
far
yeah.
away, man. You're like at the other end of the country.
Well, you can come
Oh,
out, you can come out fishing with me.
Oh, that could be great.
Yes.
You know, the language that these people would use would be the dangerous idiots and then the more idiotor. I don't know, I'm more of an idiot than that guy. The more idiotor of the protesters, okay? Case in point, this idiot of a woman.
Why are you protesting?
How much time do you have?
What time of the world?
A couple minutes. And what's the main reason you're out here protesting President
I
Trump?
agree with a lot of the decisions that are being made.
Is there any decision in particular you disagree with?
Okay, so I would start with
Mine.
Well-
No. It's not real.
I don't even.
It's
They
not
have
real.
no idea.
Don't tell me it's real. It's not real.
No.
We are in
I
the
swear to
Matrix,
God,
folks.
these people are paid. They're paid to be there. There must be like a quango that is paying them to be there and just to like be useful idiots. I swear to God.
This is a quintessential description and on-screen portrayal of a useful idiot.
Yeah.
She's like peak, like give me your resume. I need you for like protest Carney. You know.
Yeah. I swear.
like,
I think that they just are. They just desperately need something to do. And somebody said to them, "Hey, come to this protest and be on our side because we're the good side."
And they ask, what is it about? I don't know. Perfect. I
they're
don't care.
NPCs. No, they're NPCs. They are NPCs. They're literally the definition of a non-player character. They have no like thoughts of their own. They're just there to fill space.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of them are under some kind of medication. They don't even know where they are.
The SSRIs. Yeah,
some
the
of them
SSRIs.
might be like not
Yes.
there. Even the face of the guy is like, look at that, look at that, look at that. It is, and just interviewing that kind of useful idiot must be the most hilarious thing. Like, I don't think I could do the same holding a mic at someone I think is so stupid and not laugh and say you're stupid.
No, it does take a lot of like self-control. It does. Trust me.
I don't have it.
Okay, so Michaela Peterson, she has to do that at the same time, and she was on SSRIs for a while, and she's off of them now, and she still goes through withdrawals, and she talks about how when she tries to talk to people in the real world and puts the mic up to them, it just blows her mind that she used to be that person, and it fucks with her head. It makes you feel like garbage. No, it does. When you talk to these people, it makes you feel really bad about yourself because all these things are, you know, what they're feeling. You know what's going on in their head, and you're like, oh my fucking God, are you serious? You want to just slap them. You want to, but you have to control yourself, and you just let them talk. It's what's the operation? Just let them talk. Just let them talk, because retards will just talk themselves into retardation and show how stupid they are. It's true, and this is why the whole Charlie Kirk, the Nick Shirley, and what's the other guy who went to India? Who went to the poop festival?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. I don't know the name, but I picture it.
All you have to
already.
do is just
So I
let
will expand on
everyone,
that for
just
those who
show
don't know.
everyone the truth.
I will expand on what you said for those who don't know. So in India, like I think once or twice a year, they have in some really isolated areas in India, they have that festival where people are throwing crap at each other, and I'm not joking, like feces,
And it's
like
only it's cow
like
poop. It's
yeah,
only
yeah, yeah.
cow poop because it's exalted. Cows are exalted.
And what's going on? We had someone that was like, it's not real. I gotta
Tyler
investigate. And
Olivieri.
the person went there and experienced that thing, and he did an entire documentary on that, and it was fascinating how people were trying like Sundays at each other to remain YouTube friendly.
Tyler
A
Olivieri.
big brown.
Yeah. Oh my god,
They were throwing
it's
big
crazy,
browns at
dude.
each other.
But it's not just like, okay. Anyways, let's go with the video. Come on.
And then they want to
going.
flood Canada with that. Great.
I know. Let's bring 4 million more of them. Come on, 4 million more.
I don't even think it's appropriate for me to have this interview.
And I gotta say, how old is she? Wait, Is
Mid
that-
40s, mid 40s.
is that a
Early
lady
50s.
childless
Oh,
that needs to find purpose?
You know she's had like 12 abortions.
She needs to find purpose now that she doesn't have.
I would
kids.
guarantee she has had more than 10 abortions. I would guarantee. I would bet my house on it.
Maybe she had a kid, but like she gave it to the orphanage or some crap. But like all of these abortion, bruh. Like what are you doing to your body? You're not meant to do that.
No, you're not. No, you aren't. Anyways, keep going.
Okay. Is it weird? That's how all of the interviews end. I'm not talking to you anymore. Why? You uncomfortable because you have no idea what you're talking about?
It's so often the case with the left. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. The moment you hit a nerve, the moment you're like doing something right that they don't like, they just remove themselves. And now we got the dragon back at last.
The thing that Hassan Piker was talking about with Angle, where if anyone in your party, anyone who is in your group starts like wavering, you have to get rid of them. You have to just have to stop talking to them. They cannot be allowed ever again. And the moment they stray ever so slightly, it's the I'm gonna call it the what's it called, who's the writer of Harry Potter?
J.K. Rowling.
I'm going to call it the J.K. Rowling rule. If you can be all in on everything everybody does, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, this is a little silly. You're persona non grata.
Persona non grata.
Now you're banned. You're banned.
So
you are
here's let me say this. I know,
literally a billionaire feminist, and you would be the best person on our side, but all of a sudden, you didn't agree with this little tiny niche thing that we have going on.
And they thought she was freaking feminist. That's the most hilarious part.
Here's the thing about a lot of this. The reason why I've been recommending this to you is this is 6 months old. Now, when Glenn Beck does his specials, he's had a couple because years and years ago, when I started watching him when he was on CNN. Okay? He started off on CNN in like the afternoon.
CNN? Really?
Yeah, he started off in CNN on a spot, and then he made the jump to Fox News. Now, people don't realize is he jumped from Fox News right when they were about to lock him into more of a long-term contract. Now, that's when he started The Blaze and he started his other stuff. So, he eventually moved into the DFW area or closer, and I've actually met him in person. Now,
I have too. I've been to the studio. I thought that was that was one of the
He
coolest trips I ever
basically,
went
here's
to.
the thing about him. If you met him, it's been very different. He was the person, if I could ever find, when he was on Fox News, he did the specials on Che, Putin, and all of them. And it was, he chose, is one of the few who walked away from Fox. When he says he has a research team, it was only rivaled by Bill O'Reilly's research team.
That's
Because
interesting.
here's the thing about, okay, see, when you come
Give me
around
a sec.
like,
I'll be back in a second.
so people who do not know what color revolutions are, color revolutions are basically, it's a movement. Think of everything. A revolution always has a color associated with it. Now, a color, it's basically small. Now, him going after No Kings is because No Kings is largely astroturfed. Now, he has another special where he talked about who the founders of No Kings were. The No Kings founders were actually former Democrat staffers that ran a coffee shop, low key. Now, the interesting part about it is most of these people, let's say you need 3 to 6% of a population to swing it. Because let's take Mamdani as an example. Mamdani gets elected overwhelmingly during a midterm election, mobilizes basically the Muslim vote to get power. And what's that's 8 to 10% of New York City, maybe? Vote for him. He gets into power. A bunch of quote unquote brown people and immigrants got him elected. Now, reality is, Mamdani thinks of that as a mandate. Now, Democrats, on one hand, because the more racy one that Glenn Beck did was on the, and I'd have to find it, it's the, similar to this, the Islamists, which are the difference in the Muslims, use socialists, liberals, and everyone in that first section of that chalkboard to gain power. Now, this is something when you look at, we do say George Soros, but it's really Alex Soros, his son, that's more active now. Alex Soros.
The left will always be the useful idiot that will help
No, okay,
the
do you know?
Islamists to
Okay,
win.
let me say this. There's several different terms you have to know. Color revolutions. That's the false activist groups that you only need a small section. Because if you just look at what happened with redistricting in the U.S., Democrats just potentially lost Virginia. Okay?
They tried to rewrite it. I've seen it. And I was laughing. They failed.
The thing about this is we have a lot of redistricting coming. Now, the interesting part about this is Democrats think, because you have a bunch of progressive morons, because one thing, as I said, you keep hearing the word progressives. Progressives are different than liberals or conservatives. They are an entirely different group of people. Because,
and a lot of them are useful idiots, let's be honest.
So here's the thing. Useful idiots. Do you know what that is?
The people that don't think, they are the NPCs. They are the people that will just support any idea that's popular.
So here's like when I ask somebody on a vote, and I've asked this just of a normal voter. They'll say, when you go into a voting ballot outside of midterms, do you know about every single candidate that's on that ballot? Probably not. Because most people only know the president, the governor, and everything else. It's like in Texas, as an example. People think that we like Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a Canadian, is basically a lawyer, that is supposedly conservative. He got entirely astroturfed by the Tea Party. A lot of outside money got him elected over, which would have been arguably a different person, who the districts he runs is basically a moderate district, not a Tea Party district. This is why you've seen a big change in Ted Cruz over the years. Now, if you ask us, who are in his district, we don't particularly like him. But, again, we don't think he's a conservative. This goes along the lines of a lot of people voted for him because of Tea Party stuff and the change to the out-of-state funding rule. Thank you, SCOTUS. That Democrats fully use. So when we talk about color revolutions and these protesters, the paid protesters, do you know the Milwaukee shooting? The woman who was shot and her lover? She was a paid protester.
Another useful idiot. Anyway.
So this is when we talk about the useful idiots. That term goes back to the communists, like Yuri Bezmenov basically did it. Because like he talks about how they flipped India. Basically, the useful idiots are killed first. They're the easy foot soldiers. They believe everything. It's like that woman that I saw, like,
I'm back.
Sorry, she basically
Welcome
didn't
back.
know why she was at that protest. And there's a bunch of these people at the No Kings protest. They're unemployed. They go from one to another. Now, when you're talking,
they're getting paid. They are getting paid.
And until they get killed, like the one, and this has been going to come out under investigations with, like, I'm waiting to see what happens with Minnesota, and Wisconsin.
The one where she was trying to run over the ice agent. I guarantee you, if they get her bank records,
her messages,
she was getting paid. She was getting paid by some Quango. Some Quango was paying her probably like $500 to $1,000, and I guarantee you that's the reason why she had gas in her vehicle.
No, do you remember? No, she wasn't the model citizen everyone thought she was.
There was a lot of stories I heard.
The lesbian that left her husband for the other woman that
her husband, her ex killed himself.
Yes. And
wow.
And her what's it called? Her
lover was burning cigarettes on their kid
that she was living with. Also had multiple assault and battery charges against her.
Why not surprised?
You forget. No, you forget. They didn't talk about her
beating on each other.
They love it. She was she at one point lost custody of the kids.
Oh yeah.
They were using she was using the children as an ashtray.
Dude, do you know how hard it is for a woman to lose custody of a child? It is. You have to do some
in the USA
crazy shit. You have to be a meth dealer,
the Doberman.
It is bad.
In the USA, it is, but in Quebec, it's freaking easy. Anyway,
so there's a big thing about a lot of it because I have to explain the useful idiots and the other aspects. Because when you have to, okay, Michael, do you know about think tanks? Like the think tanks over the years?
You know I do.
Yes.
You know I do.
We come from the same audience. He doesn't know what a think tank is. A think tank is basically like, and I wish I had this.
A cult of a school of ideas.
It's a school of ideas that puts out papers. I wish I had a stream.
And they're very well funded. These think tanks are extremely well funded.
Yes.
They're like, I wish you would have had the Soros picture up and to be able to show it, because there's billionaires funding these people. It is crazy how much these think tanks control all these. They're Quangos. They're literally Quangos, and there's government funding going into these think tanks, and keeping them supplied. It is crazy. It's crazy. But keep going.
And then they basically fill an idea. They take a report. There's think tanks on both sides. The thing about a lot of the progressive think tanks, Glenn's talked about it. He's going to talk about Neville Roy Singham. Neville Roy Singham got exposed 6 months ago, as well as about 2 years ago in Europe, for trying to cause revolutions and activist groups. Now, he's currently under investigation, but he does not step foot in the United States. He lives in China. Because this is the thing about when we talk about Soros. We talk about Soros, George Soros, but George Soros is basically living out the rest of his life. It's Alex Soros who's doing a lot of the legwork now.
Yeah, his grandson. Yeah.
Alex Soros is 10 times worse than Soros.
Oh yeah, he is. Yes, and he is deeper.
Oh, he's deeper.
And he is deeper into the fingers of government and all the workings than Alex could ever have been. And it's hilarious if we went into we can't go deep into the Alex Soros.
No, there's a whole.
It would be crazy,
video, folks. Let's bring more of the video because I see time flies.
You uncomfortable because you have no idea what you're talking about?
Yeah, good idea.
I am willing to bet that the vast majority of the people that showed up over the weekend are the more idiotor, and they're confused. Okay.
They're the Twitter morons.
Let's cut this woman and the majority a bit of an intellectual slack here, because intellectually they're twisted in so many knots that they don't know which way the sun comes up.
Oh.
They're out there shouting, "No king."
Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the other part to these protesters.
I love this jacket. I would wear that.
By the way, here's the thing about this. People don't understand about a lot of these protesters. This is something you'll see about a lot of the vocal online Twitter. The only difference between Twitter under Elon and Twitter under Jack Dorsey and the others is left and right autists can now argue. That's about it. The issue is itself is there's no such thing as rightoids. Screw Dev. But that's an entire topic.
Who's Dev?
Never mind. He's your Canadian brother, yet you guys disavow.
I know.
Yes, but no. These things about these protesters is they're fed information, and they're... So Eisenhower said, there's a big part to Eisenhower's parting speech. Everyone focuses on the military-industrial complex part. Part of Eisenhower's speech, and he sensed it in U.S. elections starting around Kennedy, is the reason why he had no faith in Kennedy was because he did not think Kennedy could do the job. It's the educated voters. Now, every so often, you need a educated voting populace to keep a populace afloat. I go back to it that Mamdani took advantage that most people don't vote. And then he mobilized the Muslim base to get elected. Democrats have done this for a while. It's very easy to spread misinformation, disinformation, and they'll go, where do we lie? It is sometimes lies, mostly lies ingrained with truths. So when we're talking about a lot of what you see on Twitter, stories, and this is what I get Trump's trying to fight back against. These exposures about the think tanks and the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Oh, yeah.
No one is shocked about the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Oh, okay. So I got, I was talking with my nephew about this a couple days ago, and he came over and we were making we were doing deer sausage. And I brought that up because we were watching Kirsha on like just on the big screen while we were making sausage, and she brought up the Southern Poverty Law Center, and he said to me, "Hey, why would anybody be against a group that is trying to stop racism. I had to my brain kind of
You had to
clicked out. I'm
educate
like,
them
oh
on
my
20
god,
years of bullshit.
they literally pay for racism to happen so they can fight against it. He said to me, no one would ever do that. That is the stupidest.
That's a lie.
That's naive.
And I'm like, my brain, I couldn't. And I love my nephew. I love him to death. Kevin is one of my favorite people. I love him. He's a great person.
He is a Canadian. What do you expect from a Canadian?
I know. And when trying to explain and trying to take him down the rabbit hole, he got mad at me, and he was like,
That can't be true.
I appreciate this conversation that we're having, but I need to leave right now.
Yes, probably propaganda all over his mind. Anyway, let's.
But I'll say this too before we move along. Here's the other part besides your thinking. Let me say this. Besides the Southern Poverty Law Center, the problem is they started off as good, but there's a whole separate thing in why they're getting it. There's also
they get infiltrated.
By the way, Michael, here's the other one. Guess I can't wait for the other organization to get exposed. The Anti-Defamation League.
Oh, you know it will. No, it was when PewDiePie offered to give them $500,000.
Yeah,
and then everyone dug into them. That was what was it, like 5-6 years ago, and everyone started digging into them. Anti-Defamation League was really they steal so much money. That's why the USAID getting taken down, just murdered all of these quangos so much. Like, it is hilarious, and you watch all these retard
sorry, but you also know,
but these bad
you also
people
notice when USAID dried up. This is something that Multi doesn't know about, but if you know about, do you notice how all of it started basically under Obama? They started funding a lot of gaming websites, a lot of activist websites.
Yes.
That was keeping a lot of those websites afloat, like Mediaite, and all these websites that have been going under over the years.
And Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was funding a lot of them too.
Wow! Anyway,
this is actual.
He was literally in all these websites. He was talking to people all day long. That was his entire day.
I'm not surprised
on these websites. He was on. Oh my God! We can't go down this route.
No, there's a whole.
They were fine with kings during COVID. They were fine with lockdowns and canceled church services and threatening pastors and firing people for not getting the jab. That sounds like a king. They wanted a king when government weaponized against free speech. They watched people get indicted for internet memes, and they were fine with it. Okay.
Okay.
That's
Michael,
the UK and very soon Canada.
Michael, do you remember? And I think I actually have it. I had it saved. There's this ad I could play it, and I guarantee you. Okay, do you remember when the Democrats got mad over the Attack on Titan ad?
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about, bro.
It literally had, the Attack on Titan, if you know what it is, it had basically, a senator that was tried to run it and used it as an ad where he cuts off, if you know Attack on Titan, there's AOC, Pelosi. You wouldn't think this exists, but it does. And Democrats got butt hurt like a mother.
Do you know Arch and because Arch was trying to get Sargon into finding out about Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
He got Lum to do American congressmen and stuff like that as Titans, and one of them was Nancy Pelosi, and Sargon refused to watch it, so
he did.
Yeah,
I
I still have it. I have it saved.
Oh, I have it downloaded because
Yeah.
the leftist war on memes. They hate
Mama
it.
got mad at me for like spamming it over and over and over because I'm like, come on, Carl, you need to see this. Come on, if you look at Nancy Pelosi, she looks like the smiling Titan. It's like big, huge cans, crazy big teeth. Come on, let's do this. Let's do this.
Let's play more of that now.
Okay, keep going.
They cheer this happening right now in places like the UK, which, by the way, actually has a king. They wanted a king.
Oh, by the way, I have a question. Since we are talking about fake protesters, by the way, I surprised I knew what did you. What does the UK have to do with Black Lives Matter?
I don't know.
That was my favorite thing when what's it called, the Lotus Eaters were talking about the Black Lives Matter protests back in like 2020, like 6 years ago, and they're like, why are there protests for Black Lives Matter in UK? It's because they just want to fuck shit up. Yes. They don't care about actually changing things. They don't want to end oppression. They want to be the oppressors. Yes.
That's funny. Anyway, let's play more.
Yes. Thank you.
When the person they voted for in the primary was Joe Biden, they were like, we can't have him. Quick, somebody replace him with some person nobody even voted for, Kamala Harris. That is the definition of a king. They wanted a king as they watched propaganda seep into our kids' schools, and when parents pushed back, the feds put them on watch lists. That's what a king does. And when anything threatened the king's commands, people were deplatformed. Alternative media was threatened. The opposing viewpoint.
The Twitter
and
files.
They were debanked.
The Twitter profiles. People under. I still say the Epstein, not the Epstein files, but the Elon Musk files with Twitter that got kind of buried.
Oh, the Twitter files, yeah.
The Twitter files basically said under Biden, the FBI was using Twitter to silence conservatives.
Yes. And what's his name? I can't remember the journalist, the guy who looks like the most autistic retard you've ever seen in your entire life.
Oh, what was it? Cam. Do you know who exposed the No King protest for being activists? What was it? Cam Higsby?
Yeah, Higsby. Yeah, you're right.
Cam Higsby.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's with what's it called? The not the Onion, the other one, the Babylon Bee.
He got in, and here's the thing: the thing with the No Kings protests and all of these protests, he got into the whisper networks they used.
Oh, because they're desperately wanting more people, so they don't care about just sending out. It's not like a gangster.
No,
it's not like a biker gang or something where you have to prove your loyalty. That you can just get in anytime. That's it. That's why. What's it called? Who's the Project Veritas guy?
God, I can think of his name.
Yeah. But it's so easy for them, anyone in Project Veritas, to just like, hey, what are you talking about? Because nobody cares.
And
they know they're doing bad shit, but they don't care if they tell anyone, especially if it's a really hot girl. That, like, it blew my mind. Cinevere and I were talking about this, and if you're like some tech guy at some really important business, and a really hot girl is like, hey, do you want to go out on a date? Come on. It's got to be fake. You need to be
What
smart.
was the other thing that got exposed by Cam Higsby? This was around the time all the crap was kicking off in Minnesota. They found out that each of these people in these rooms each had symbols by them, and they broke the code on everything that meant. And I am surprised none of this has come to light within 6 months.
Anyway, let's play more of that now.
Yes.
We're all but outlawed. That's what a king does.
This is what Carney does.
And when that didn't work, They just began assassinating people.
This is what China do.
Okay, so now wait a minute. You're not for a king. I don't what? Why are they shouting it? Because they're being told to shout it.
By the way, it's kind of hilarious
Oh, yeah.
because the No Kings folks, they defended Maduro, and now they are defending the Islamists in Iran. Anyway,
But the
that's
Islam-
another tension
what-
that's
what-
hilarious.
Why would leftists be supporting Islamists? Why?
I don't know, man.
It doesn't make any sense.
They have a common enemy, the right.
No, I think the common enemy is Western civilization. I think it's just about like being against like obvious awesomeness that is Westernness. Like I don't
Yeah.
understand it. I've been trying to figure this out for a long time, and Hassan Piker is the antithesis of everything that we were doing and trying to make the world a better place, and everyone just like follows his shit. It
But
makes
Hassan
no sense
also
to me.
hates being an activist now. He's getting quotes where it's slipping that he hates the left, and he hates everybody. He's slipping like Vosh did. You remember when Vosh started slipping back then?
Next thing you're gonna
Vosh started. You remember when
Bangs
Vosh got
the
really
horse.
popular?
when he bangs a llama or something, then
No,
we'll-
okay. Here's the thing. Like Hassan was so bad at one point popular. He even got kicked out of his little. Do you remember how pissed he got when he couldn't go see Mamdani's party,
Yes.
or
Oh,
he
yeah.
got kicked out of the DNC?
Zax did a stream about that, and we were talking about that on Sitch and Adam too, because he spent the money to take a first class flight all the way to New York. He sat around with a whole bunch of people. He actually stayed at one of the really expensive hotels, and then he went and was like, "No, you're not allowed." He went on a rage for like 3 days, and Pegasus did like videos about it. It was like, yeah, look at you, yeah. They only use you for as long as they can use you, and then get the fuck out of here because you're dangerous. You're a terrorist lover. You will do anything that we tell you to, but we don't need you right now. So, faggot. Oh, sorry.
I guess we
Sorry.
can play
I
more
apologize.
now.
I'm sorry I said that.
No clue why, and that's why suddenly it's a bad thing to oppose, and they're confused, and they're like, I'm not being manipulated. Are you kidding me? And I'm going to show you
You're
later.
a puppet.
By the way, indoctrination goes both ways, left and right.
Yeah, that's true.
But the dangerous, useful idiots are not confused at all. Okay, these are the Marxists, the socialists, the anarchists, and the Islamists. They know why they are there. The New York No Kings rally was co-sponsored by the Communist Party as well as the Young Communist League.
Yep.
These communists, they
Shocking.
hate the West.
That entire
They don't want
list,
kings.
You can
They
look
just
up
want-
all these.
No, they
Opponent
don't
view.
hate the West. No, they don't hate the West. They want to be in control of it. They don't hate it. They just want to be in control of it. They just hate the people that are in control because it isn't them. They don't want to end oppression. They want to be the oppressors. As soon as you think that way, you'll understand immediately. They want to just destroy everything so they can be at the top of the pile.
guess
What
we
is
can play
it?
now.
The other part. that's
Antifa was using no.
The other interesting part is people forget the first people who are casualties in a revolution are the useful idiots. Guess what? When the Islamics took over Iran, Michael, who was the first ones they wiped out? The
Teachers,
socialists and the Marxists.
the teachers and the socialists, all and teachers.
The Ayatollah's guard got rid of all of them.
the mid-level, like the workers in their.
They got rid of
their
the
revolution.
socialists and Marxists when they
Because
took
they
over
wanted
Iran.
they wanted the people who are in the mid-level think that they're going to be high level eventually. and you can't have those people. They're too ambitious. You need to get rid of those people. You have to just like there's a book that Adam would tell you guys to read, but I won't say
Don't
it.
do that. There's a whole another part.
Yeah,
But
keep
this
going,
is
keep going with the video.
King's rallies to infiltrate and spread violence. And it wouldn't be complete without the Islamist and the globalized
gave everyone the
Intifada
playbook
crew.
years ago. Warned people.
Now, all of these are part of the actual dangerous, useful idiots. But guess what? Those too are all being manipulated just the same. After all, at the end of the day, they're all idiots. They all are finding themselves a part of the No Kings movement in some way or another, all idiots. And their presence is needed for appearance. The numbers, doesn't matter. I mean, no matter which group they fall under, are required. The numbers, that's all they need. I told you at the top of the show, the No Kings participants, based on the numbers by the organizers, which is probably bullcrap, represented 2% of the population. Now, why is that?
He doesn't talk about, Michael, who were the ones? Do you remember the two staffers, the ex-staffers that ran the coffee shop? I've even seen Dane talk about them. There were two staffers. This will tell you how they operate.
Who?
Okay, the people who founded No Kings. They say these are two innocent young people. But I swear to God, if I remember their origins exactly, they started a blog. It turned out they were ex-DNC staffers, low level, that either ran a coffee shop or something. Do you remember that? Or no? I need to track this down.
No.
Because I know this is their origin.
I'm literally looking it up right now. Oh,
they were.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Yes.
They were low-level staffers in the DNC. It turned out when you dug into them,
Washington State. Of course, it's Washington.
They were low-level staffers. They started running a coffee shop, and then they did the No King stuff.
Yeah.
Suddenly blew up. They ran a blog.
Their coffee is $25 a pound.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm looking at their website right now.
Wow, that's crazy.
Ridiculous.
Who's willing to pay that?
And the shipping and handling is $10.
Wow. Wow.
So $35 a pound.
That's what I call greed.
Yeah, well, duh.
And important.
You might as well just make t-shirts.
Well,
just make
we've got to move into Act 2, the intellectuals and organizers.
Yep. Now
because they have targeted 3.5% of the American population. That's what they say they need. What do they need 3.5% of the U.S. for? Revolution.
Yep.
See, the intellectuals and the organizers of the No Kings movement have been studying this for a very long time. They've been looking at color revolutions all over the world. And they found in all of their research that only 3.5% of the population is needed to successfully bring a country down. Well, this is exactly what our founders warned us about back in the 1700s. In the Federalist Papers, the founders called this the tyranny of the minority, how a small percentage of people could effectively make their voices look louder and larger than they really were and force their will on the majority of people. This is why our government was designed the way it was. Direct democracy was shunned. We were made into a constitutional republic. The Electoral College was created specifically to protect us from tactics like this. But the color revolutions,
I will go on a whim and guess something there. Maybe he's about to address that, but I feel like that body that was meant to protect has been infiltrated, and therefore it's no longer protecting because of that.
The reason why, like, technically the Electoral College works, like, here's the thing about Virginia. Virginia is decided by largely four counties below D.C. Because especially when
they're Democrats. Because
this is because very few people could live in D.C. So they lived outside of D.C. So these counties,
D.C. is the murder capital of.
So you had to to win Virginia, even when Bush took Virginia, you had to win 3 of these counties below D.C. It turned out a lot of these staffers, now that the people who were the staffers in D.C. got fired, those counties are changing now.
When USAID
Oh, yeah.
got taken down, all of a sudden there was 40,000 places up for sale in Virginia. 40,000.
Yes.
In less than a month. 40,000.
And they were in those counties below
they
DC,
were.
I bet you.
I know.
And
What's his name? Phil Labonte was talking to me about that, and he's like, everyone on my block is selling their house because they're all getting paid by USAID. It's crazy, and because of all the government subsidies and stuff like that to BlackRock and stuff like that, they all got bought out in less than a month. If 40,000 houses go up for sale and they all get bought in less than a month, you know there's something going on. There's something bad going on. It's not people, it's corporations that are doing it. And I think that there was like an outside force happening that made it happen. But I'm just speculating.
speculating, but it's really interesting. Yes.
It's all designed to bring all of this down.
In less than a month.
Early in the show, I promised you 2 new names and 2 new books that I would want you to read and understand. But before we get there, first, let's talk about the main organizers of the No Kings rallies. When we come back, I'll go into the money trails to the groups like Indivisible. But first, the ideology behind it. Indivisible.
Kirsha told me about Indivisible. She brought that up like 2 years ago, and I've dug so deep into them.
Oh,
and the whole bridge thing, it will make your brain hurt.
Oh, why do you think a lot of us who have watched O'Reilly, watched Arch, watched Sargon over the years kind of goes hand in hand?
Yeah.
We all have known about this shit for like years.
almost a decade.
A decade.
Almost a decade now. It's so stupid, but it's just a conspiracy theory. Well, we can show you the bank records, and we can show you exactly what they're buying. And that's just what businesses do,
The left atheist when they get the reality check, so they need to deny reality. That's why they need to create new realities. But
Yuri Bezmenov was correct.
It's kind of funny how it's actually true they don't have kings, but again they do protest about no kings in a country that don't have a king, but
I only got 4 more minutes.
Oh, that's sad. But other countries that do have a king also did that stupid protest. Anyway, let's play more.
This was created by a couple of former congressional staffers named
So he
Ezra
does mention
Levin
it.
and Leah Greenberg. I've been talking about color revolution for years now. And the reason these revolutions have been dubbed color is because of the marketing tricks the organizers use. For example, the Rose Revolution, the Orange Revolution. Now listen to this little No Kings planning webinar hosted by Ezra and Leah. Listen to what takes center stage for all of their preparations. Listen.
What's getting organic pickup that we can start to pull out and capitalize on, right? And so thinking about things that we're seeing pop on the internet, things that we're seeing start to take off in places like Reddit. The color yellow and black have come up a lot, which is obviously very kind of people taking pieces of the No Kings logo and running with it as a color scheme.
Did you know that they were encouraging people to wear yellow? I immediately thought of the yellow vests, because remember the yellow vest? That same...
Oh, the Yellow Vest riots. They have not To my knowledge, to this day, every so often you'll hear about the yellow vests, which
Wasn't
are the
that in
construction
Paris?
vests.
Was that
Have
that was in
those
France,
protests against Macron finally
Yeah,
stopped?
that was in France.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think they ever stopped. They were construction vests. Yeah.
They were. Yeah, and how many churches got lit on fire during the
Notre
Yellow
Dame
Vest
was probably
protests?
one of them.
It was almost 200.
Oh yeah.
And I want you since 2020, how many mosques have been built in France? Take a wild guess.
So this is the thing about the yellow vest riots that people in the West don't really think about when we think about it. I remember hearing about the yellow vest riots every so often because they're usually middle class construction workers
Yeah,
that would take to the
blue
streets.
collar.
Eventually, they were really talked about, and they've been the main pain in the ass to Macron. And I think you'll still hear about the protest about them, that they were still organizing as of this year. But it's mainly a French thing.
Okay, I gotta go.
You take care.
Love you guys.
Thank you. Love you too. Have a good one.
Thank
Take
you,
care,
Thank
man.
you so much for having me on. I appreciate it a lot.
Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah,
Yes,
That
thank
was
you
fun.
for for me till I
and
get.
also, dragons are gay, and yeah.
You know what? In
Agree.
here, I was going to
Also,
invite you.
Magnus did everything wrong.
I was
and
going to.
I still
by the
love
way,
him
dead
to death.
serious.
And
I
I
was
still
going
love
to
him to
invite
death.
you to.
I would be on. I'm Magnus and me to the end of time.
By
Have
the
a
way,
good
I
one,
was
Doberman.
going to tell you, Michael. Would you be willing
He's
to
gone.
go over the? He is gone. That's why I
Kinda
said
thing.
there's a few things. But
They're discussing in public which color to use for their revolution. This is a color revolution, and it is being planned as a color revolution.
Iran had the Green Party. It's a good thing to remember.
And they are consulting intellectuals who have made color revolutions their main field of research, which brings us to the first name I want you to know and the first book. In another planning webinar for No Kings, Ezra and Leah featured a Q&A with a Harvard affiliate woman named Erica Chenoweth.
Now, I gotta react to a bit of that. I always feel like the scholars in the intellectual, it's never enough for them to have all of these degrees, all of that knowledge. They always feel like they need to change the world because they want to put a use to what they learned. And when a lot of institutions are actually left-leaning and far left-leaning, that can produce exactly that. Leftist that will be socialist in a lot of cases.
I want to say this is a lot of things you need to remember. You see a lot of names thrown at you during this. The Erica Crenshaw, the Erica the Chinanu. These are names that you don't see a lot publicly. It's very much the case of, here's the thing about these names. A lot of us know about these names, like Kimberly Crenshaw is another example. The thing is, these were all professors. These are all either they've gotten into the colleges. In the books he mentions, I say check out, because a lot of these people we've heard about over the years. Erica Chinanu did come on a lot of progressive podcasts, basically why civil resistance works.
And you know, that's funny. That's funny because why civil resistance works. You know, when we had COVID, they were the one praising mask and wanting 20 jabs. So it's kind of hilarious and kind of hypocrite as well that you want civil resistance, yet because the governing party is online with what you believe, or your set of belief, I should say, then it's okay to listen. You're no longer doing that civil resistance anymore. You only do a civil resistance when you disagree with the power. it's fascinating.
That's why they're all the liberal people, believe it or not, look like dirty hippies. They all look like shut-in dirty hippies, which have never left their outside. Yeah.
So again, one last thing. I really feel like I want to hit that home. Intellectuals, when they have these degrees, they want to sniff their farts and their friends' farts as well. They want to prove everyone that they are better than you, and that's why they must tell you you should be a socialist, you should be a communist, we should all be equals, because they're like they think they have the moral ground just because they got these degrees. They think they hold the truth because they studied a lot. And it's fascinating because you see correlation, they all think the same way. There's a few that don't think that way, but you see that few that don't think that way are either ostracized by these people or they remove themselves from that system. Just saying that.
Yeah.
Just saying that. That's what's going on. These so-called intellectuals are brainwashed today. I do think 60 years ago or 70 years ago, intellectuals were actually intellectual, and even when you look back at history, intellectuals were smart. They were thinking outside of the box. But I'd say in the last 30 to 40 years, it's not the case anymore. They are just printed by a big printer to have the same ideas being echoed and thrown around everywhere, so people can accept the new normal, the new world order. Disgusting. It's sickening. And then they pretend they're smarter than you.
She, or they, as this person likes to go by, whatever,
They are they them,
has been researching
non-binary.
color.
Go fucking figure. They really are. That Erica, that Eric, the one that wrote that book. Yeah, they were they them. I'd say, and it's something against
successful color revolutions for a very long time now. It was her study of color revolutions that found the number 3.5%. She called it the 3.5% rule, how a small minority can change the world. You want to know what the next few years, if No Kings is an indicator, is going to look like? Read this book, the book titled Why Civil Resistance Works, okay? Her work looks like it was heavily influenced by another color revolution intellectual, and I want you to listen to this part of her Q&A with the Indivisible co-founders, where she mentions resources people can look up to further the cause. Listen.
There's some interesting stuff happening. There's a good list that's easy to find. If you went to like Gene Sharp's list of 198 non-violent methods, is like just one of those low-hanging, easy access resources. And there's under economic non-cooperation, there's like a really long list. And then there's other kinds. There's social and political non-cooperation as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the second name I want you to research and bone up on, and Gene Sharp. Sharp was the political science professor at the University of Mass, Dartmouth.
And that person will most likely brainwash the students and say, here's the way you should think, here's all it should be, and here's why it's better. And they will most likely not really present in any fair way the other side, which is not so intellectual, not so fair, and not so great. Again, I really think the schools have fallen, and it's sad. It's very sad. They used to be great establishment if you talk about 60 to 70 years ago, before the far left really took over and started having full control over these establishments. Yeah, let's play more of that.
I say it's more a lot of these names were college professors that gained, because what happened to the Democrats are, like after Obama was the last wave of the progressive Democrats from the 60s. It's very much the case. You have to remember that a lot of these names, yes, she is a they, them, non-binary. The thing about it is, you learn that a lot of these, that were the professors who write this stuff now, were believers or they were in a minority at the time. Because like in the US, we have the people starting to go against the Democratic Party are known as the DSA, Democratic Socialist of America. Now, they are a member of the Democratic Party and the far left. The thing is, you have to remember, progressives are very different. They're like the radical professors that were teaching children. The internet allowed them to get a bigger foothold. So when you see a lot of stuff on Twitter, this is why I don't trust poll results on Twitter or those communities. A lot of these polls are coming up really weird because you need to look at actual voters. Just because a bunch of progressive or leftists appear on Twitter doesn't mean there's a lot of them. Democrats were quoting this. They were then shocked that Trump won and beat the hell out of Kamala. They don't think about this. Now
they're in their own echo chamber.
They think that, so the people you see on Reddit, it's funny, you hear a lot about Reddit mods, Discord mods, and other things. But when you actually understand these communities, these are a narrow-minded community that follow each other online or groups of people, but they're really a minority of a minority in their community. And it's not to say, like even in Texas, we have our rabid blue hair liberals, but you don't see them in our area. You just see classical liberals. You don't see the blue hair flaming liberals. Does that make sense, Multi?
Yes, it does, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
But areas like California, though,
it's all blue hair.
And New York, we're talking Oregon. That's a different story, folks.
Yeah, let's play more of that now.
Oh, and he also wrote a book in the 90s that was later characterized as the Bible of activists. From Dictatorship to Democracy. It was a successful handbook for a successful revolution by peaceful means. It would go on to be translated into more than 30 languages. It has been smuggled into multiple countries, and color revolution typically follows soon after. From revolutions in Eastern Europe to the Arab Spring, activists on the ground reportedly were trained right off the pages of this book, From Dictatorship to Democracy.
I gotta say this. It's interesting because I don't know many places that were dictatorships that turned into democracies, and I'm wondering if whoever made that book actually went in these places, or if that book is just the opinion piece on how capitalism is bad, how I think the right even existing is bad. I'm wondering. I'm questioning. Again, the far left streams about democracy and rights, while they also stream about censorship when it doesn't align with their set of belief. The paradox, guys, the paradox. It's special and unique. So let's play more of that now.
If you want to be able to understand, predict, and counter the narratives being thrown around at No Kings and other color revolution events in the next few years, you have to read this book. Give it to your elected officials. Show them what all of this is being based on. This is the playbook that was referenced by Erica Chenoweth and apparently the principles that are guiding the organizers behind No Kings. Now, let's go to Act 3. Where's the money coming from? Follow the money in Act 3 next.
So there's music there. Is it safe or not?
It's safe.
So, do you wake up every morning wondering how your pain is just going to affect your day? Michael had more energy. Look, if you
forgot he does this.
Shared by, don't let stand, because that's the way countries fall, and they are.
He should have cut things.
All right, there's a color revolution going on here in the United States, and that is so important to understand, because that's the way countries fall, and they're following that playbook. It's happening.
I know.
We have to follow the money. It's not going to be easy. In fact, it was designed to be as dark as possible.
This is what
I want to
we're
show you a
talking about,
spreadsheet here, recently shared by Congresswoman Luna. This allegedly.
Okay, this is where you're going to learn. A lot of these organizations have been basically being funded. Project Blue, there's some other shit over the years. They've gone by various code names. You have Najim Roy Singh. He's going to get brought up. He got exposed.
That's an Indian, just by the last name.
He basically is living in China. He's a member of Silicon Valley. He was investigated by the UK government for supporting activism and terrorism.
Wow.
And he...
Model citizen, folks.
He has basically been living in China for the last couple of years. And he sold his tech company, and he's been behind a lot of these. Neville Roy Singham. And see, I have like a file, because the thing is, when the moment he came out, it's a name that you would easily forget. You can find the stuff on him. And when it got exposed about 6 months ago, it's very similar when he got exposed for doing similar stuff in Europe about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So, now granted, a lot of this money is by like the Zuckerbergs, all of them. You find out like not as much the Bezoses of the world, I arguably say. It's the other ones. So you got to remember a lot of these funding organizations. And they've shuffled money around over the years. And like one example, prime example, the WhatsApp network that got exposed in Minnesota or Michigan earlier this year during the Alex Purdy thing. It goes all the way to the top. But tracking money has been really, really hard because these investigations take years. Like the thing with the Southern Poverty Law Center doesn't shock anybody. That took years. Federal investigations take years and dedication. The problem now is a lot of these organizations have been throwing around money. That's why I said about Alexander Soros. He's worse than his grandfather. So you get the idea. This is universal. This is not just the U.S. There was something, and this has not been confirmed, that Antifa and No Kings was getting funded from a Canadian organization. Here's the thing, and this is what's funny about this. They don't mention this, and I can understand why in Canada they don't mention this. So the company that was involved, like prime example, a lot of these companies that were promoting DEI, CRT, so you know,
Canada,
like, do you know, like,
Canada.
during Gamergate, the guy who killed himself because he was bullied?
Yeah.
Yes, and that happened, and Zoe Quinn got away with it. His company was a leading gaming company. Guess what happened to his company after he died? It got turned into a funding company to fund DEI projects that led to Sweet Baby Inc. It goes back to his company. And guess where his company is? In Canada. Go figure. And they shuffled
Canada.
They shuffle this money around.
We are like, when people say Canada is China proxy to attack the USA, it's breaking through, folks.
Oh, here's the other part.
Wake up.
Funny. Here's the other funny thing about DEI and other stuff with China. He's going to get into the Chinese money and the Chinese connection.
It goes through Canada.
Here's the thing. The Chinese were funding a lot of DEI to destabilize the West. A lot of
companies, and it worked. Like,
it worked for a while,
for like 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we are about to lose Canada probably forever because we are just not waking up here. We are asleep all time. Like, Anyway, let's play more of the video now.
Is the financial trail behind No Kings. Over $294 million in total. The money trail comes from the who's who of left-wing activism. $45 million from Tide, $72 million from Soros, Rockefeller, Ford, Buffett, and $79 million from Arabella Advisors. You've seen these names over and over again. Doesn't surprise me. But that's a lot of money. And the funds are spread all over the place. And it's a headache to track it down, but it's supposed to be. So I wanted to bring in a big gun because this guy has brought clarity over finances for a very long time. He is the best of the best. He's the president of the Government Accountability Institute, been tracking this kind of stuff forever. He is the author of multiple New York Times best-selling books. Peter Schweitzer joins us now. Peter, have you seen this latest, and I know this disagrees with some of your work, have you seen the latest number of $294 million going to No Kings?
Yeah, I have, Glenn. And in fact, the spreadsheet that Congressman Luna shared is a spreadsheet that Seamus Bruner, our vice president at GAI, put together. So I'm glad she put it out there. Yeah, the numbers continue to mount. And the reason, Glenn, is you touched on it in your introduction. Tracing this money is very hard. Sometimes
And I think that's in purpose. It keeps investigator occupied. It keeps the money going because it's harder to cut something that you cannot track. I don't know. I feel like that's exactly what's going on. But yeah,
it's basically like money law. So Peter Schweitzer, right? He works with a lot of people. Like he works with a lot with O'Reilly, and he works with a lot of the. It's a name you're going to hear about. You're going to hear a lot over the times. He has been around for a while. He's usually just a numbers guy. He's very much like me. He basically looks at the data to track the data. He was the one who did the Biden crime family thing, where he tracked the Biden crime family concept where they were money laundering. They were making money on the side, if that makes sense. They were a lot of this stuff. It's really hard to track down, and it puts you on a lot of short lists. And it makes you cross a lot of people because a lot of these that you see, whether it's like, as I say, the Biden family, which doesn't want their finances shown, or the Clintons even. People forget when the Clintons were all but canceled by Comey's attack on them a long time ago, was they had 150 FBI agents up their ass. That's not minor. They, instead of criminally indicting them, which I think would have been hard to prove, with the email server being in the basement and all, they just hid it. They basically got her out of the presidency, and Democrats have been hoping she goes away, which sounds weird, but a lot of the money tracking it for these activists, this goes on both sides, by the way. It looks shady as hell. Yes, it comes from Silicon Valley, a bunch of these organizations that are 501(c)(3)s, etc., but it's insane. Because think about Canada when you see this. Think about Europe. If you're in Europe, a lot of these organizations and the hedge funds have been funding this for years. So there was it's like Project Blue, something like that, was using dead voters that they gave money to, and they would just shuffle the money around. Oh, yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Money goes through pass-throughs. Sometimes the money is donated anonymously. Sometimes the money is crowdfunded. So yeah, the numbers are going to continue to climb the more we find details on the specific trails.
So, I mean, 294, over $250 million. I assume that's not just for this, that's to fund the whole thing and what's still yet to come. An astounding number. How clearly can we trace it to the actual movement itself, the ground operation?
Impossible.
Yeah, so what that spreadsheet shows is that...
Oh, because you got to bear in mind how organized a lot of this funding was. Like during Black Lives Matter, a group of bricks get dropped off on a street corner where there's about to be a massive protest. Those bricks had to be paid for that day and dropped off. Think about it. But
That's interesting.
It's insane how you have looked like all these finances amongst these leftist groups. It goes back to USAID. It goes back to a bunch of people in Silicon Valley. It's been this way for a very long time. And this is why I say a lot of organizations, you can hate AIPAC. That's the one for Israel that funds people. But look at their Muslim counterpart, like CARE and them. They donate 3 to 4 times what AIPAC does to candidates. They just do it through different means, so it looks smaller. Crazy, huh?
And it's also harder to track.
Yeah. Continue.
Let's say something like the Tides Foundation gives $20 million to an organization.
By the way, Tides got exposed in the USAID when it failed a couple of while back, and by Doge. When Doge got into about Tides Foundation has been very known about for years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That could be for general funds, that could be for anything. But if that organization is playing an active central role in these protests, they are included in the database. And the problem, Glenn, as you know, is money is fungible. So you could have a Ford Foundation, for example, funding an organization on something to, let's say, get out the vote. But that money can be used also for protests. And I think the way that we need to understand this is it's not just about the No Kings movement. They are creating and have created an infrastructure to create social disintegration or social destabilization in the United States. Many of the same groups behind No Kings are the same organizations that were engaged in more violent protests during the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020, or when in October of 23, when Hamas brutally attacked Israel and all the protesters came out in favor of Palestine. It's many of those same organizations. That's why we have sort of jokingly, but only half jokingly, called this Riot Incorporated, because they have an infrastructure for social destabilization. It includes the group on that list. What it does not include, Glenn, are the foreign foreign entities that are also involved in this movement in places like China and Iran, etc.
I mean, it is stunning, Peter, that's a lot of money. $300 million, that's a good-sized company.
Yep.
And it's amazing to me that kind of money can be swimming in our streets, and nobody really.
Substance. And if we speak about China, the housing market in Canada is basically taken over by them. Substance money, to remain user friendly, there are so many ways to just trade money with illegal means.
No, it's also printing, moving, cleaning money.
Yeah.
The reason why a lot of crypto is considered dirty, very hard to be not stable, is because of the fact that so a lot of these organizations, you will hear over time, it's damn near the same people, different faces. Because what was not covered a lot by people was how many of the Black Lives Matter organizations got exposed or they embezzled. You're talking about, I'll be very honest, this is something that's very disturbing. It's huge. We've tried to follow these organizations' money for years. Like, you think back to Black Lives Matter. They just spawned out of the ether. They got billions of dollars. We don't know where the fuck it went. The founders of Black Lives Matter somehow bought very expensive homes. They were also black socialists. And I know it's going to sound weird. You'll hear this. But no one looks at the money. They think these are just organic. You look at No Kings. No Kings and anything else. Replace it with the current. And I'm not saying this is basically a lot of funding being thrown around. Now, the feds are getting good at tracking this. To a degree. I say to a degree.
But again, it's by design to make it very hard to track down the money.
It's complicated to track down.
Really understands it. When you look at the crowds that came out this weekend, what is the percentage of people that have any idea how badly they're being used?
Oh, that's a great question. Obviously, it depends city by city. I think in a place like New York or San Francisco, it's probably a higher percentage are aware of what's going on because you have a lot of professional activists there. Same thing in Portland, Oregon. But I would say if you look nationwide, I would guess maybe 20 to 25% know what's actually going on. I mean, let's remember these protesters in some cases are standing next to other protesters that have a sign from PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. This is an organization that communes with the Chinese Communist Party. They travel there, they coordinate with them. They say their program is the party of the Chinese Communist Party. There have been some reports that there are financial ties there. I would imagine that there are a fair number of people at these protests that have no idea that the people that are protesting next to them are tied to our foreign adversary, namely the Chinese Communist Party.
And you know what's funny? All of these leftists, they're all about human rights. But then China helps them. They don't realize it. They don't know it. But a lot of the money, as he said, comes from China.
Here's the other part that people forget. When they talk about Neville Royce singing, he married a person. He actually started what is a very big thing, and they do have a YouTube channel called Breakthrough Media, if I recall. Sorry, names are frying, and I have it bookmarked. I have an entire folder because this is very easy to not keep track of. He started it as a free media forum, which is part of like a socialist or communistic forum in New York City. And then they have a website as well as a YouTube channel. That if you find it, you'll see it pushed through YouTube. you see it. But it's in the same building. A bunch of these organizations are in the same building, the same area. It's just like when they talked about the Somali fraud, right? It's in the same building. Why do you have like 30 medical offices in the same building? It's insane. And this doesn't look like a daycare. This doesn't do this. Let's say it's a daycare. It's a medical office. It's not impossible to track down. Like Nick Shirley has been good at it. He was doing it in California. Government could have investigated this. But see, part of the whole problem with the ICE protests kicked off right about when feds wanted to go in. Recently, they're just now getting to the daycares. But the daycares are just part of it. The medical fraud was being used by the Somalis under, quote unquote, a tax loophole. Prior to that, they had taxi. They had like a taxi company. Like a, what was it? Like they take medical assisted people to places.
That's amazing.
Dig into it. It's a network of stuff. Oh yeah.
Do you see anything that you look at and say, this is actionable? This is something the government can actually do something about?
Yeah, I think the key thing is when you're looking at violent protests. What's very interesting to me, Glenn, is that the protests, the recent No Kings, the No Kings 2.0 protests, not a lot of violent activity. I honestly believe part of the reason is the president had a meeting in the White House, a very public meeting about violent protests. And part of that discussion was who's funding them and Department of Justice looking at entities that are funding violent protests. That's the reason I think we didn't see a lot here at No Kings 2.0 because of the deterrent factor, because there is actually a pathway. If you are a businessman, if you are a foundation, if you are an individual and you are funding an organization that is known to engage in criminal activity, meaning violent protest, arson, attacking police officers, etc., you could be potentially charged under RICO and other statutes. So I think the president voicing concerns about this, saying that DOJ is looking into it, is having a deterrent effect, because while a lot of these, let's say, esteemed or publicly acknowledged foundations have a sort of revolutionary attitude, they don't want to go to jail. They don't want to be prosecuted. They don't want to be charged. So I think it is having a deterrent effect to have this conversation.
So the thing is, what he's talking about is RICO. The American mafia arguably would have decayed over time. But by the time it got to the 80s, the 90s with the Gaudis, things like that, Gotti just was flashy. Gotti was too flashy, murdering people in the street. It went from low scale to far too obvious. Then RICO came along, and basically what happened was when RICO came out, it caused a bunch of organizations that were being too loud. The mafia could easily move back to the underground. That's an actual example. A lot of these organizations have learned from potentially organized crime or prior. Now, it's not to say that they don't organize violence or have violent members. Those cells are a lot harder to track. Like the guy who attacked the Correspondents' Dinner a while back was radically radicalized by messages he saw from organizations. His family wound up turning him in, like shortly after, but it was too late. He was already at the event. They didn't know where he was, basically. But these organizations, I'll say this, They get more, like No Kings is different. But what happened effectively, though, when you look at the No Kings protests in Portland, when there was the anti-ICE protests, let's say the anti-ICE protests are a really good example. The radicals, the ones that were violent, came out later on. They would come out. But there was an entire structure to this. This wasn't just funded, come out of the ether. But it's hard to do because a lot of people go, we don't claim them. So this is the big problem. We can track the funding. They can shuffle this money around through Wall Street. But guess what? When it comes to actually tracking this money, like you're in Canada, so it's a little bit harder. You don't think of a church, a religious organization, potentially as funding something, but it happens.
We got the government that funds for that.
But you get what I'm saying, right, Multi?
So a lot of these, you know, a couple Wednesdays ago, we did an episode. We just laid down some easy things, and their argument will be, I'm only doing things that are protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution. So I'm not doing any. We're not giving our money to any of the violence, any of that. How do you get there, Peter?
Well, you get there a couple of ways. First of all, a lot of these organizations are outright open in their advocacy for violent protests. They use words like direct action. That's a term from the left, which means violent engagement. You see a lot of times in their literature things like holding signs is not enough. Okay, well then what are you saying besides holding signs at these protests? What I would say that the Department of Justice should be doing is a couple of things. Number one, following the money. We provided that information, all public sourced, all public record from tax returns, et cetera, to the Department of Justice. Number two, looking at the communication. I think they should subpoena the communication records, because if you have some of these businessmen, some of these foundations that are communicating with organizations that have a history of violent protest, and they are aware that there may be violent protests, that is the very definition of a RICO charge. RICO was set up.
Quebec is so cooked. I bring Quebec here because we had a protest basically was against one of the ministers here in Quebec, and that minister is actually center-right, and they did stuff the far left didn't like. And what did they do? The far left, they did a big protest, and in that big protest, guess what? We had a head chopper. I can't remember the exact word, but basically what they used to cut some head during the French Revolution. You know what I mean, do you? These big knives that just cut you and you die, you know?
Machetes, yes.
Yeah. So we had a protest like that from the far left in Quebec. And guess what? None of the person involved were arrested for inciting to violence because they were using that machete, and they were using like a cardboard, a piñata-like object with the face of the minister printed there, and they basically cut the head of that minister with the machine, and they were celebrating that.
Totally fair. I mean,
and it's the far left, folks.
The far left in the U.S. surprisingly decided, and we said this to them a long time ago. They decided. So they had this bright idea to embrace far left activists at some point, and conservatives were like, "You're letting the Antifa and progressive wing in too much."
Yeah, and by the way, what these folks did in the protest I'm telling you about, was completely illegal because this is a pure incitement to violence. They were basically saying this is what should happen to the minister. And by law, in our criminal code, in both the province and the country of Canada, it's illegal. You can do jail time. Let me finish.
Yes.
You can do jail time. And none of the people involved in that protest were masked. So they were on tape. They were on pictures. It was obvious. They were like, we should delete lives. And guess what? Nobody got arrested. Because this is how Canada has fallen.
Question.
We have people preaching for the death of ministers.
Okay, does that piggybacks on what I was going to ask? Because do you have the thing like in the U.S. where you can carry okay, technically at a protest, if you're marching down the street, you want to carry a gun on your back?
You can't have any weapon in Canada.
As long as it's not loaded, right? We can do that in the U.S.
In Canada, you can't have any
Okay,
weapon.
let's say someone goes to a protest. There's knives. That's probably not allowed because that's going to make the thing look violent.
Freaking pepper spray is considered a weapon in Canada, my friend.
Really?
You carry pepper spray, you can go in jail. I'm not joking.
Okay, so
and our gun laws are so strict and it's so limited. And that gun, you cannot carry it anywhere. Like, usually the people with a gun license, it's for shooting range and for their house. And when they carry the weapon around, it should be in a special box and it should be heavily controlled. So like even the few people that have gun licenses, they can't walk around with that. They can be arrested if they don't have the proper
okay, I have a question. So when you see this, they expect, let's say, basic people carry things like, let's say you carry not a baton, but you have it. Some women carry like a stun shocker kind of thing or pepper spray.
That's the weapon. You can.
I guess women. Look, what's interesting about this is it that creates a problem now, doesn't it? Because a woman is attacked. Their usual stuff is pepper spray.
But no, here in Canada, that's a weapon.
God.
The only reason you can have that is if you're in the woods, but even there, like I don't know the specific rules, but I know at large and in general, if you walk around with pepper spray, if you pepper spray someone, you can be charged.
That's assault, yes, even in the U.S.
Even if you're in self-defense, which is kind of crazy, like the self-defense laws in Canada are ridiculous. Like it gives so much freedom to whoever is attacking you that self-defense doesn't really exist.
I have a question.
Canada.
So self-defense, hypothetically, a woman is walking down the street, well, let's say even a man. He's attacked. He defends himself. A woman's about to be raped. She has to let herself get captured and assaulted before Canada can do anything. Because if you do, you tase them. Then you tell the police, I was attacked. I have bruises.
You're charged and the guy is scot-free.
Jesus.
It's ridiculous. Canada has lost the plot.
That goes beyond losing the plot. Because
like we got stories. Look, we got stories of people on their own, and that's mostly in Ontario, because now Ontario is a jungle. We got people being attacked in their houses. They defend themselves, and they are getting charged. And like they're in their house. someone just enters, and what do they say to the people in Ontario? Yeah, if someone enters, give them the key, give them everything you have. Like, don't defend yourself. Just go hide like somewhere in a closet or something. It's ridiculous. It became so bad last year. We had like 40 break-in per week. Like in Toronto and in Ottawa. It was crazy. It was so bad that some castle law was getting traction, and even some leftists.
The castle doctrine in Texas and
Yeah,
Florida.
but let me finish. Even leftists were like, you know what? That's actually a good idea. And it wasn't implemented simply because it came from the conservative, and of course the liberals will never accept anything from the right because they are above them. But it gained traction. Like, I know people that are far left that were like, you know what, the castle law from the conservative, I actually stand by it, and I wouldn't be pissed if it passed. So again, this is how bad Canada has become, my friend. Like, you can defend yourself and be charged. You can do jail time for defending yourself.
Yeah, that's where
Canada.
it's bad. Like, that's why.
And you're in your house. You're not anywhere. You're in your house. Like, the one place that should be safe.
Jesus.
Like, people now there's a business with people having double locks to make sure nobody breaks in. And the worst than that, the time the cops respond is always so long. So long. Like, you have the time to die. Like, we had a dad that did jail time for protecting his 3 years old from being raped by some brown person. We had these stories weekly.
Oh, that's
No, the liberals are like, everything is all fine, everything is peachy, right? Anyway, let's play more of that.
During the time of, high organized crime, because the police and law enforcement were tired of busting the guy on the street corner who's committing the violent act, but not being able to get to the guy who's actually, financing it and organizing it. The same parallel would apply here. So I think that's what you need to do, is you need to look at communication. You had actions in Georgia in this entity called Stop Cop City, where you literally had organizations that were funded by the Tides Foundation. We've established that.
Yep.
These organizations were throwing Molotov cocktails. They were assaulting police officers. And the local prosecutors, who, by the way, were Democrats, charged these protesters with RICO and also with domestic terrorism charges. The question I would have is, did the Tides Foundation know the history of this organization? Did they communicate? Did they know what was planned? Because this was a very public act that was planned and discussed, that they were going to engage in these violent protests.
Yep.
That, to me, is the very definition of where you could prosecute somebody.
So could you explain for people who don't remember the Tides Foundation? What is it? How do they work?
Yeah, so the Tides Foundation is a grant-giving foundation, meaning that they give money to nonprofit organizations. They show up quite frequently on the database that we attended. The challenge with the Tides Foundation is they receive donations from people in Silicon Valley. Mark Benioff, the founder and CEO of Salesforce, has donated to them. Then the Tides Foundation takes this donated money and then doles it out to these various organizations. So if you're Mark Benioff, you can probably, I think, very legitimately say, I don't know who Tides is giving the money to. Tides made that determination.
Money laundering.
Tides that's why I said.
Where does that money come from? Where is it going?
That's why I say this is why Tides. Remember Tides. Tides is something you're going to hear a lot about over the time. Every time you hear about one of these organizations, unironically, it's always Tides. It's these weird organizations, and then they get funded by Silicon Valley.
So it allows the Tides Foundation, in a sense, to screen people from the consequences of where the money might be going. Again, I have no idea if Mark Benioff or Bill Gates or the many other people that have given to the Tides Foundation are aware that they were going for violent protests, but Tides is at the center of a lot of this, and that's why I think
I don't think people would know, but even if they did know, I'm sure a lot of leftists, they don't care. Only the end justifies the mean. As long as they get the result they want, they are fine with it. And that also ties back to what I said earlier. Leftists don't realize they are being helped by China that uses slave labor.
The ends, it's the phrase you're thinking of, and I wish people would.
The end justifies the means.
The ends justify the means, and enemy of thy enemy is thy friend. You see this a lot as well amongst a lot of leftists and a bunch of progressive organizations.
They don't care. They don't care. As long as it's destruction of the right.
I wouldn't say that it's as much as this is what you find out, again, with a little bit of nuance of it. And I'm not saying that we're wrong. Like, this is something a lot of people learn. It's like, No Kings leads to Antifa and other organizations, the Black Lives Matter. You'll see a lot of these are in the same ballpark now. They're very similar to one another.
I will say this, Arian, Blitzrig. I kind of agree.
Yeah, I agree and disagree with that.
Here's the thing. We talk about extremists. And extremists, they don't give a crap. As long as it reaches the ending they want.
Or an ending.
Yeah.
The thing is, okay, the ending that they want. This is what people don't get about a lot of these organizations. You'll hear Tides, you'll hear this, the Soros's organization. Yeah, Buffett donates, but it's not like these people are 100%. Some of these people are just donating to charitable causes. They're already liberal, but they're not entirely brainwashed. They believe in a thing. Now, but when you get to parts of Antifa types or Black Lives Matter with extremists, they will say any kind of violence does, and as soon as that revolution happens, they start fighting amongst themselves. But to them, let's say an assassin, somebody inspired by them, led to Trump being impeached or assassinated, they would all cheer. I know it sounds weird, it sounds extreme, but
that's the truth.
These people will all cheer. They will all agree.
I know.
Behind the same room, they will grow into the same room, the same echo chambers. Very few of them will come out the other side and then say, well, guys, should we be burning down churches because Christians are bad?
Let's do this.
They'll just agree in the same room, walk out, and do it. And I know this sounds like a very cherry pick, and people will go, well, but all those people that protest in furry suits weren't doing anything. Okay. What about the others?
You still burn the churches, folks.
What is the others? Like, go look at the ICE protest in Portland as an example.
One right doesn't fix a wrong.
How do I put this? Because it's the best way I put this. It's like, but then again, what you're finding out with these organizations, believe it or not, and this is something, okay, it's often said liberals and progressives have a dimmer switch. If you know, Multi, do you know what a dimmer switch is? That's like an oven. Think of like
I
an
see.
oven.
They turn up the flame to max.
They turn it off, they cook it, go off, whatever else. Here's the
Burn
difference.
it to the ground.
Here's the difference between this and conservatives. Conservatives just have a switch. It's often said. Conservatives will have a switch that just clicks, things happen. All right?
The investigation needs to start there. And again, if these large investors, these well-known philanthropists are giving money to tides and they have any inkling that it's going for violent action, they should be held into account as well.
Yeah.
So
But they are left-leaning.
I talked
Who
about
cares?
this, last week before. It was a Saturday. I get a call from the FBI on my wife's phone. Mrs. Beck, is your husband around? We're with the FBI. We would like to send some agents over to the house to talk to your husband. And she looks at me and I'm like, what? What's happening? And so they came over to the house and there were 3 of them. And I said, are you a good witch or a bad witch? I wouldn't necessarily welcome you from the DOJ, from the last administration, but come on in. They said they just wanted to gather some information, some things that we had talked about and the things that we had looked at. I was really shocked.
We call this basically they wanted him as a consultant or pick out something they were investigating. But usually you should not resist FBI agents.
It always looks bad if
I felt bad for the people who are actually fighting this fight, because you and I have talked about this stuff for 20 years. They haven't heard of it. No one in the Department of Justice has done any legwork on this in 20 years because they have just been ignoring it and turning a blind eye. And then when the Republicans get in, they get in for 4 years, and they weren't taking it seriously enough. How difficult is it for the FBI to be able to start from scratch and be able to get these people?
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be that difficult, but I agree with you. It's all about the priorities of the people at the top.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, obviously, there was a lot of focus on Islamist terrorism, et cetera. I understand that. But, they devoted their resources to going after Catholics in Richmond, Virginia.
Right.
Yeah.
Rather than these radical organizations. And what's very encouraging to me about all of this, Glenn, is, look, you and I both know there's a lot of information, a lot of exaggerated stuff out there on this subject that has no credible information.
By the way, before we play more, I want to speak about priorities because it's fascinating. Some people have different priorities, and why do we need Republican to get in charge from the FBI to look into it? It's just fascinating.
I can give you the answer. You may not like it. So the problem itself, this goes back. Okay, so we had George Bush as president, right?
Yeah.
Obama was the answer to the neocons as well as everybody else. You got to bear in mind, this is kind of how it went. Obama was the backlash to George W. Bush and the war on Iraq era. In those policies, Trump arguably was the response to the Obama administration.
And Biden.
Biden was Obama's 3rd term.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds really weird, but people forget in the U.S., I hate to say this, even though people want our system is definitely the lesser of 2 evils. Where, look, you have 2 choices to pull the lever for. Biden, let's say Hillary or Trump. Hillary had been running twice. We know the devil we're going to get with her. This is the Uranium One deal and a bunch of other stuff we know she's been involved with. The disappearance in the bodies and shooting people and staffers. Then you have Trump, which is some sort of loudmouth that we did not know what he was going to do. So a lot of people voted for Trump because sometimes the devil you don't know is better than the devil you know. Same could be said about Obama. During when Obama got elected, Republicans willingly voted for Obama. Crazy, right? Because they didn't like the person running against him.
Interesting. Let's play more.
I've known you for a long time. The research that you guys do, everything's verifiable. Everything is sourced. You can hand it over and say, here's where we got the information. It's all credible. We work the same way. So I think it's very encouraging that the FBI is reaching out. They're reaching out to people to have this information, and we can help them move along this process much quicker than they would if they were trying to develop this organically. Because as you said before, this is a tangled web.
I know. I brought your name up. I said, if you guys aren't talking to Peter Schweizer, you've got. Have they contacted you? Or have you?
We have had contact. We have had contact with the FBI. I'm still curious, by the way, that they called your wife's phone.
Because I don't have a phone, and we talked about it. We're like, how did they get this phone number? But it's the FBI. I will tell you, Peter. I gave them the name of a few people, and I said, look, this is what they do. I said, we have archives and stuff we can show you. But these people are on it every single day, and I'm glad that you have reached out to them or they have reached out to you, because I like I said, I actually felt really bad for them, because they could have told me everybody who has seen a Latin mass in the last 5 years, but they could not tell me anything, and they really are. I mean, you could tell. The administration is pushing, and they want to respond and have some names. Here in Texas, they're going to start prosecuting some people, and they need the money connections. As they said, if we can track money and connect it, then the whole thing starts to come down. So more with Peter in just a minute. Hang on just a sec, Peter. First, let me tell you about our sponsor.
No.
Look, you worry. He packages these.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but look, I think it's absolutely the step we need to take, because it's one thing to increase enforcement on the street level, which we absolutely have to do. I mean, if you assault an ICE officer, if you're trying to firebomb an ICE facility in Portland, Oregon, you absolutely should be charged. But let's be completely blunt here. I mean, this is, to use an analogy with the mafia, those people are disposable. What you really want to get to are the people that are organizing these protests, who are providing the communications equipment, who are providing the logistics support, who are providing the legal support to what they're doing. And that.
You know what's fascinating? I really want to get it out of my chest. You're speaking about enforcement. Canada has so many laws that we simply don't enforce. Like our free speech stuff, we only enforce it when it's against the government. When it's against Palestine or whatever is the far left causes, then it's fine to have hateful speech. But don't you dare hating on the government. Don't you dare. We have laws and we just don't enforce them. This is Canada in a nutshell. This is what's going on here. So I enjoy hearing that in the States, in the red states at least, you cannot enforce it because you still have your common sense.
It's not just here. It's not that. The biggest problem we have, I think, in the U.S. itself is often the fact of our DOJ gets, pardon the phrase, cock-blocked by its own powers. There's a lot of people, like, you can entirely promote somebody to the DOJ that has no right to be there. It's the worst part about it. You can basically go, you can never have any experience in law enforcement and get to a position of a sheriff. The idea of the FBI, this is something that under like 2016 and then 2020, when the election fraud happened, it was very super hard to investigate because you need a responsible DOJ. You need a responsible DOJ to investigate stuff. The FBI will bring these cases. There is no guarantee the prosecutors will pick them up. Like, let's take something like Minnesota. What happened with the Somali fraud? They know that this fraud is happening.
They don't do anything about it.
They don't do anything about it. An outside agency comes in, right?
Yeah.
Things occur, and then they're like, but you can't do it. You can't threaten us. Because the federal people, they're not trying to strong-arm them. Like, it's going to come out that the state knew about this level of fraud, but they chose not to. Various administrations with Elon Omar, a bunch of others, because Elon Omar is saying there are now Jews being prosecuted in concentration camps. I shit you not.
I'm not surprised.
They cannot. And this is where government agencies, when they're in control of someone a party that does not want investigation, you're not going to get anything out of them. See, like when Biden got to be president, we were going to have Section 230 reform in the U.S. Section 230 was the...
You're lagging.
Huh? Hold on. Am I still lagging?
You were lagging.
Yes?
No, you're fine now.
Okay, so Section 230 reform was... See, a lot of this investigations die on a vine. Democrats wanted to crack down on Reddit, Discord, and a bunch of other social media sites promoting anti-activism or breaking rules. Guess what? Biden interrupted what would have been Trump's second term. A lot of these policies that Biden wanted died on a vine. That Trump wanted died on a vine. Twitter would have got exposed. Reddit would have got exposed. Potentially. We would have had reform. Corporations
you've got
backed off, basically. That's something that you see. All these companies, these organizations get away with it. So the FBI, you want an FBI to be responsible. But if a city official or a prosecutor tells them no, they can do all this legwork. And it's not prosecuted. It's sickening. Does that make sense, Multi?
Yeah, it's
regime. People who control the top do have influence.
How to work your way up the food chain. Do these guys like Zuckerberg and Gates, everything they do they engage lawyers? Do they use institutions to shield themselves from possible liability, whether it's in business or their philanthropy? Absolutely. But the bottom line is there is somebody, and I would say it's with some of these foundations and some of these advisory firms that are acting as the pass-throughs, know exactly what they're doing when they donate this money. When they're giving it to the organizations down in Georgia with Stop Cop City, they know what they're doing because they talk about it month after month, year after year. And those are the people that need to be held into account. And again, to use the mafia analogy, Glenn, you can try to work your way up the food chain. You can ask somebody who's at one of these entities, okay, you're communicating with this organization engaged in violent acts. Who directed you to do it? And if you don't want to tell us, that's fine. We're going to throw the book at you. That's how I think you need to approach it. I never come and say, whether it's when you and I talked about the Bidens or the Clintons, I never say that this stuff is easy. It isn't easy, but it's a worthwhile endeavor that has to be done. And whether it's legal charges or greater clarity on what's been going on, it's absolutely something that's necessary for our country. Because look, we are in an era of American history where social cohesion is being challenged by large funders and entities that wish us ill. Some of them are domestic, some of them are overseas, and we have to expose this in a consistent way.
Let me go to overseas here for a second. Let's start with China. What do we know about China?
Well, we know there are a couple of people that are involved in funding what I would regard as radical movements in the United States. The trans rights movement, which has emerged kind of out of nowhere.
A million people showed up for the demonstrations all across.
And once they have that base of local government.
Oh, fuck God, that was my part.
Other countries like India, another 2017 for $1 billion, made him a billionaire.
Back further.
On what's been going on, it's absolutely something that's necessary for our country, because look, we are in an era of American history where.
Okay, pause it. I'm going to get in what he's about to get into, which is interesting. When you saw the reason why we ordered the sale of the American branch of TikTok is because we said about ByteDance. ByteDance was Chinese front company for the CCP. To have a company in the CCP, you need, well, to China, you have to have a CCP official, I should say, with China. Even a game like MiHoYo to exist, though the current CEO is a member of the Communist Party of China, actually. But you get the idea that there's an official in there that the Chinese run. Now, Neville Royce Singham is a very much a name. It's a person you look up. He was looked at by the EU. But like with TikTok, TikTok was ordered to be removed from the government devices due to the fact that it's potentially a security liability because China would data mine it or get the information.
Why am I not surprised?
Now, here's the thing.
Sounds like
when
China.
This happened, we ordered the sale of ByteDance that ran TikTok. Now, to no one's surprise, by the way, Chinese TikTok, let's say Korean Twitter, has a lot of nudity, loose alcohol usage, occasionally drug use, half-naked women, right? Worse than ours. But that flies because that's Korean Twitter. Korean Twitch, even. But when you get to China, what Chinese see on theirs, their version of TikTok is very different than ours.
It's all about brain and goal and pride.
It's very influencer.
It's enriching, and when it's for the USA and Canada, it's brain rot.
So the thing, yes, you got it. See, there's a lot of influencer peddling even in China, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing about it. But it's very propaganda, but it's also uplifting, but it's also like cooking. But for us, you see a lot of activism. This is what's funny when Elon took over Twitter, even. Twitter, it turns out the Japanese, even though they have extreme politics, care about anime, music, and Gundam. Odd, huh? That's what they majority care about. So
sounds like Japan, my friend.
So a lot of this weird stuff you see with China, when they did ByteDance, we ordered the sale of them because we wanted them out from the Chinese thumb because they could give information to China. It's really screwed up. It's a security violation potential. They don't want it on devices because China could use it for various intelligence purposes. Now, there's a whole thing of, yes, the current people who bought it, still that. But, hey, but this is what he's about to get into. Because China, as an example, wanted to crack down on the Korean culture. South
I'm
Korea.
not surprised that
Because
like them.
they, just as an example, they thought K-pop making men at one point look very effeminate was hurting masculine men. Guess what they did? They cracked down on the femboys and the K-pop people.
I'm not surprised.
Hey,
social cohesion is being challenged by large funders and entities that wish us ill. Some of them are domestic, some of them are overseas, and we have to expose this in a consistent way.
Let me go to overseas here for a second. Let's start with China. What do we know about China?
Well, we know there are a couple of people that are involved in funding what I would regard as radical movements in the United States. The trans rights movement, which has emerged kind of out of nowhere, really. Who's talking about this 10 years ago? Two of the biggest funders of the trans rights movements are Chinese billionaires. One of them is Joe Tsai, the chairman of Alibaba, which is kind of the Amazon of China. He's given tens of millions of dollars to
yeah. Alibaba is next to Tencent, is above Tencent. He is like Jeff Bezos of China. Alibaba is where you see a lot of knockoff goods. You'll see it in the Google search results. But he's a big trans proponent. You start to think, because the reports that China was funding a lot of DEI organizations through shady money, yeah.
Trans causes in the United States.
Which, by the way,
he does not fund trans rights in China itself.
No, right.
No gay rights.
Which I wanted to ask you about,
very
Peter.
Interesting.
That says something. He either believes it and is afraid to do it in China, or he doesn't believe it, but he knows it'll set us on fire. Which do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I would think that if he was passionate about this, he would be consistent and he would be pushing it in China as well, but he's not. And of course, the situation with regards to the LGBTQ, whatever community in China is much more dire than it's ever been in the United States. So Joe Tsai would be an example of some.
Let me say this. Here's a funny thing about how Chinese billionaires work. One or two things happens to them. See, multi, I'll fill you in if you don't know this. They sometimes disappear. Okay? Sometimes they'll turn up stripped of wealth. One guy's a billionaire. They told him not to do his thing. He was a financier. Someone then ran into him looking without dapper suits, right? And he was riding a motorcycle. Not a motorcycle, but a bicycle to work. He was, and you'll hear about a lot of these, and I pull these stories, but I never go over them on my stream, but I keep track of them. They are basically like billionaires that get knocked down to size if they don't disappear. Which sounds crazy, doesn't it? You don't think that this is China. But when it comes to Western, it's just like Gay Pride Month. You never hear about Gay Pride on Bethesda in the Middle East or in China. Think about it. Yet we do here.
equity in that particular area. The trans rights movement has funded those causes. The other one that I would point to in China is Roy Singham. Now, Roy Singham is an American, but very interesting, Glenn. He had a tech company called ThoughtWorks. He sold it in 2017 for $1 billion, made him a billionaire. What's interesting is the investment firm that bought ThoughtWorks from him is partly owned by the Sovereign Wealth Fund of China, which I find very interesting. But when he cashes in, he leaves the United States. He now lives in Beijing, China, where if you look at the Chinese media and other reports, he is very chummy with the CCP. He attends CCP events.
So Neville Roy Singham, and this is something that's very important about him, and I bring this name up a lot. He was found in Europe. He sold his tech firm. And as you hear here, he sold his tech firm, made a bunch of money, but he is an active communist and socialist that lives in China that willingly works with the CCP. I have articles. I mean, Multi probably doesn't have the time because he's just going over this video. But this is something that you can look into and you will find he was a part of. Now, he cannot, I'm not saying he can't step foot in the United States. There are certain countries he will not go to because he's probably going to be arrested or there's extraditions.
That's tragic.
Because the guy you're hearing about is Neville Roy Singham. He sold his tech company for $1 billion. He willingly lives in China and supports Chinese initiatives. Now, this is a thing. This is a guy. He's been paying through subsidiary funds a bunch of leftist activist groups. I know this sounds weird, like a conspiracy theory, but it's one of those things of, I do have articles on it, as goes back even to Europe. They tried to look into him, and he was named. Now, this is a name that got re-brought up 6 months ago. Now, the FBI is investigating him, but he's not going to leave Chinese soil. He's not going to let himself be extradited. Because what you're going to find out as well with China, color me if you're shocked, a lot of crypto schemes come out of China. Because as long as you play ball in China, they don't give a fuck what you do. But beware. It's like Vladimir Putin's Russia. You can be friendly, be an oligarch, but you can one day have a boating accident. In China, actors and actresses, people who become famous or billionaires, sometimes get fed into the system. Sometimes they don't come home.
Why am I not surprised?
So, again, it's interesting about when you know these stories that what propaganda they have fed through their Western companies that can't really compete against America, like militarily. You have to convince the population. That's why our TikTok is brain rot. That's why every other like if I showed you Billy is their version of TikTok. It's a bunch of gaming videos, a bunch of weird, quirky VTubers, some like promotion. It's very sterile. You know what I mean? It's like game runs of, oh, I did this in 30 seconds, something like that. But in case of Genshin, you see a lot of stuff too. But when you see their version of Twitter, their version of Twitter alternatives, it's nowhere near as bombastic as ours. It's not political. They don't have LGBTQ people up front because, as I stated before, they got felt threatened by a bunch of effeminate, quote unquote, Chinese males following K-pop models. They were going to crack down on that in imagery.
I'm not surprised. So let's play
Continue,
more of
yes.
that now.
etc. He considers himself a Maoist. He always has.
He's a
He
Maoist.
is not
That's
only
worse.
involved in supporting the trans rights
Well,
movement in the
Mao
United
was a big
States.
dictator.
Every sort of
Mao was worse
violent,
than anybody.
agitated protests in the United States, you can look and see that Roy Singham has been connected in some way. And that's because he's got an entity in New York called the People's Forum. He poured $160 million into it. And the People's Forum has been sort of ground center for the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020, the so-called anti-Israel or pro-Palestine protests beginning in 2023. A lot of them originated or organized within the People's Forum, and now, of course, the No Kings protests and the protests by other organizations. So he is very actively involved, in my mind, in destabilizing in the United States. And he's done this in other countries like India, where his entities have faced legal peril.
Yes, I forgot about India. This man, basically, he's been trying to upset in India. That's why I have in articles, like, I have to find it. This man has been involved in trying to promote communism in India. And they get it to him because, bear in mind, he was an American citizen. Okay, he was an American citizen after his tech company sold. He then moved willingly to China, and he married a communist woman, and he's living a very good life. But one of the few times you hear about him is usually his weird ass funding efforts when he's doing, pardon the phrase, gay opping or funding organizations. This is stuff a lot of people, he's one of them. Again, he is just one of many.
Because they say that he's essentially trying to subvert the state of India.
Yep.
So, I mean,
So
the
much
same
so
thing with
Indians
George Soros, but nobody seems to act. I mean, I don't know why we allow George Soros just to continue to do this. He's been banned in, 3 countries around the world for doing exactly this. Peter, when you look at, let's stay overseas for a second. When you look at what's happening in Europe, it's the same exact playbook happening in country after country, all Western countries. But Europe is still headed in the wrong direction. They don't have anybody willing to stand up against this. Are any of these players financially tied to Europe? Do you know? Are they doing any of that? Is that a whole new separate group of funding for Europe? And are they too far gone?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've got family in Europe. My mother was from Sweden.
I gotta be honest. I think. Well, I thought for years they were far gone, but the result recently showing the decrease and the fall of the Labour Party actually gave me hope. So I don't know. We will see how it evolves, but I think Europe right now is in a very dark and bad place. I don't want to be there. But it's kind of hilarious how Canada takes the same exact path, and it's dark. It's disgusting.
I mean, okay. The problem is, the thing about Europe, which people sometimes forget, is Europe goes between, I roughly say, periods of normalcy to about what you think is straight liberal madness, social liberal madness. This happens about every 20 years, give or take. And depending on it, let's say like the UK, their silent majority stands up, corrects them. Like there's a thing if I showed you on like, and it's longer than this because I know sometimes your attention span, I'm used to long form content. It's Tommy Robinson talking about the Islamic takeover and how they kind of did it. They were deemed, the British don't see the Islamics as a threat. I mean, they just think they're Muslims. They just think they're Muslims. It's not that Muslims try to integrate. That's a big difference.
It's the Islamists that
they cannot tell the difference between the two. But general policy is you say it. But then again, when people point out they have a bunch of Islamists preaching violence against the UK and their white neighbors, they can't see it. Europe does have parts that are very far gone, but you have to remove the system in place. It's very much like policies in Europe, which is like Germany. I can't think of the prime minister who was there. Angela Merkel was there for a while, whoever the prime minister. I've asked my German friend about this, and it's the case. Her party still controls a lot of power. Until a party falls, you're kind of fucked. It's, like Canada, you would have to kick out almost an entire generation of people and then pray, guess what? The people you voted in are going to do their jobs. Am I right or am I wrong, Multi?
Well, we will see how it goes, but like Canada, I'm losing hope. Really.
It's like status. They go for the status quo. People vote, even in the U.S. We may change people only when we only change leadership when it's generally exposed that the leader is totally corrupt.
I wish that was like that.
Or we feel there's a correction. And this happens through special elections, which are going on right now. You have other people before we hit president midterms, because Trump, for his governorship, his government to survive, he needs to maintain control.
You know what's completely stupid with Canada? Because we mentioned Canada. Our FBI is under the direct control of the Prime Minister. So what it means is if the Prime Minister is corrupt, our FBI won't go after him.
Oh,
it's ridiculous.
They will just be complicit. They're not. It's as I said earlier. The DOJ. Let's assume the DOJ can do its job, but we're going to go after a couple of friendly neighborhood liberals or other people who are friends or payola of a couple of other people.
And
wait to stay, they'll get away with it, won't they?
There's other stupid stuff like our FBI being controlled by the Prime Minister. Our parliamentary budget officer is actually appointed by the Prime Minister again. Now, if there are several names, because sometimes it happens that there are several names that are put into an ad and people vote for it, the opposition have the power to have their say, but it can, if there's a majority, like right now, the liberals can do whatever they want. The other ridiculous part, so we have a governor, and in theory, the governor is the general of our military, and the governor in history used to be the check for the government if if the governor feels like the government is abusing its power, it could actually dissolve parliament and create a new election. And um, when there's a vote of non-confidence, the government would step in and say, oh, the government lost the confidence of the parliament, therefore a new election must be held. So the government, the governor had, in theory, in history, the power to make sure the government stays online and doesn't abuse its power. But guess what? Who names the governor? The prime minister again.
Yep.
Which is completely ridiculous. Oh, and by the way, our Senate, we should have a reform, because what's going on with the Senate? There's a number of a limited number of seats there, and we don't elect any of them. And what's ridiculous is, again, the prime minister is the one that appoints the new senator if there's an opening. And again, we had now 11 years of the same folks in charge.
Yeah.
So now the senator, like, I think it's like 106 or 107 senator, we got 9 of them that aren't liberals or independent, because Trudeau added independent, but let's be honest, most of these independent are liberals under a different name. So it's fascinating because, again, the Senate should keep the government in power. Or I should say the Senate should make sure the government doesn't abuse its power, and the Senate is there to craft new laws, and the Senate is there to be another check to power, another balance to power, another tool to protect the citizen and the people from the government. But guess what? The prime minister also controls that area.
So here's the funny thing about a lot of stuff. What you're talking about is having a balance of power, okay? A balance of power, which is really funny, because what keeps the U.S. on a proverbial track is we have what you think is Congress, because Arch's video takes... What's funny is you didn't go over this one. That's going to be... But the concept is Robespierre and a bunch of others from people who you talk about founded Machiavelli's The Prince. He told the prince, you need a House of Champions or Lords, you need a Senate, and you need a court. Our court system is supposed to maintain. You have the executive branch, which also has the DOJ, but the House and the Senate and the courts are supposed to balance out everything. Guess what? Liberals co-opted certain courts. So if you judge shop, right? You judge shop, or let's say the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is notably usually super liberal or anti-conservative Republican. Sometimes they'll go out another direction. It's supposed to keep the balanced system. The DOJ is supposed to keep everything in check. But Obama staffed the DOJ with a lot of people who couldn't be replaced until they wanted to be replaced years ago. So we had to wait till they got out. The FBI, you can change the FBI director. Basically, corruption does not care from where you hail. It consumes you regardless. It's not a force that gives a fuck if you're a Marxist progressive or even a religious conservative. It corrupts you all the same. Then, when you have a legal body that has to investigate itself, which we have cases right now where liberals stacked a bunch of corrupt officials. But that takes time. The DOJ, despite Pam Bondi being totally bad, has tried to conduct legit investigations. Kash Patel's trying, but he has only so many period, so much power. Like, he's the one that got the Southern Poverty Law Center thing started. That doesn't mean if another director comes in, another administration, that investigation's dead in the water. Because under Biden, a lot of these people, with this money being sloshed around, it's not replaced. It's not investigated. Does that make sense or sound similar to Canada?
Yeah.
We have corruption out of the ass. We just sometimes have whistleblowers that come forward. Then they quietly direct the ship and then say, oh, do you know that investigation into the Chinese man giving money to Black Lives Matter? Forget about it. It's swept underneath the rug. White-collar crime. Basically, Wall Street level crime. What's funny, though, is surprisingly over the last 2 to 3 years, and even under Biden, they prosecuted crypto billionaires who were scheming. That is unusual. But that's a rarity, right? But this is the trick. Corruption and turning a blind eye because someone is a friend of a friend, and then the FBI doesn't want to waste a year on an investigation they're not going to get any criminal charges in or a conviction of, because the difference between the federal government versus the state. This is why and this sucks. Federal government hates losing. Prosecutors like winning. So guess what? Unless they get an open and shut case, like the Epstein files as an example, even though they investigated 10 people, 15, 20 people, they wound up only getting 5 or 6. Why? Because those were open and shut cases that they had firm evidence over. A reason why we're going to start seeing, and I hope Trump does this, uses the DOJ to go after the swamp. I have very little of faith with Trump with certain matters. Most other matters. But if you
Sweden, my father from Switzerland, so I track events there pretty closely. What's interesting to me is you see kind of almost a division of responsibility or duty by these radical groups. In the United States, we've discussed kind of in detail the funding, how they operate, the issues they've latched onto. When it comes to Europe, it's almost entirely an issue related to Islam and Muslim communities.
Yep.
And that's because that's what the demographics show. You have a situation in Europe, whether it's Sweden, where my mother's from, or the situation in France or Italy, where much of the base of the institutional opposition to what I would call Western civilization comes from specific ethnic or religious community, which is Islamist. And that model has worked in places like the UK. You've covered this extensively. Some of these local governments now that are essentially run by Islamists. And I think you're seeing a kind of a replay of that, an attempted replay of that in New York. With the Mamdani campaign.
Yes.
And Texas is in real trouble. Mamdani is, I mean, that looks like it could happen in England or France.
We have that.
But
it's been the case.
Number one seeming destination for Islamists seems to be Texas right now.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
That's true.
And they
That is
look for
very
opportunities to build out what they call civilizational jihad. And the notion, if you look at the literature, you've talked about this as well, Glenn. If you look at the literature, they don't need to be a demographic majority. They talk extensively about how people don't really vote in local elections. So all we need to do is have our core base and make sure they turn out and vote, and we can take over a local government with 9 or 11% of the population. And once they have that base of local government, what does it allow them to do? It allows them to create local statutes and laws, but even more importantly, they now have a financial base upon which they can operate. They get federal grants, they get state grants, they raise money locally, and they can steer that money in a manner that moves towards their ultimate goal, which is this sort of civilizational victory over the Judeo-Christian West, as they put it. So it's a very serious and real problem. I think for Europe, it's a bigger problem because the demographics there are much more dire than they are in the United States. But there's no doubt they are trying to replicate that in New York City and in areas of Texas and parts of California.
And Dearborn, Michigan. And Minneapolis.
Dearborn's already fallen.
It's crazy what's happening. Peter, hold on. We have one more break together, and want to get some more information on what exactly is happening. But first, let me tell you about preborn. For a baby, life or death.
I forgot. There's others. Go past it. Emerson. But when he's
anytime you're dealing with somebody who is sophisticated, who is wealthy, who is successful, you have to realize that you're facing a very monumental legal battle. But this is the way our system is supposed to work. And that's why I've always done what you've done, Glenn, which is follow the money, look at what the law says, look at what the details are, and based on that, argue what action should be taken. And I don't see, unless we are prepared to tolerate going forward, that we are going to have permanent disruption in our streets, that when federal law enforcement officers are simply trying to enforce the law like ICE is trying to do, you're going to have people targeting them. You're going to have local law enforcement shielding them. You're going to have organized protests consistently helping people to evade being held accountable for violating federal law. Unless we're prepared to accept that, this is the necessary step to take. And what they're counting on, the people that are funding this and organizing this, what they're counting on is that we don't have the attention span, we don't have the capability to expose it, and we don't have the fortitude to actually do something about it.
It also keeps the people distracted, so these folks that want distraction can do whatever they want without much scrutiny. And
so
let me continue. When you split what you see as your enemy in two camps, it's easier to divide and conquer. It's easier to take over that place if you get these pesky American fighting each other over like immigrants. It's very easy for you to just do your thing, launder your money, and get all the power and scheme behind the scene while they are too occupied doing crowd control. That's how I see it. I might be wrong. I might be crazy.
No, you're right. I think the problem is what he talks about is, see, what he is talking about, not to say that I live in DFW, he's talking about, we have an area around Dallas, which is called Irving, Texas, where a lot of there's entire Sharia law communities popped up, not Sharia law, but Sharia schools. We have been on a watch list since 9/11.
By the way, these Sharia things, you know what they do? They bring out the races that ate.
The fun fact is...
Let me continue.
Yes.
Let me finish.
Yes,
they bring up these racist folks, you see? And then they also bring up these defenders that are progressive, that will stand by it and that will fight for these Muslims. So what's going on? Again, it creates more conflict, more division, and it's easier to conquer. Again, that goes back to what I said.
Fun fact about if you don't know anything about how the Islamic organizations have been, and this is one of the ones that comes out. I have to clip out parts if you ever wanted to go over the Tommy Robinson thing, because your attention span doesn't go beyond an hour. One of the funny things is, no offense to you, by the way, the idea is it exposes, they want these closed communities. They can practice Islamic. The Islamists want this area. They can practice these laws, these ways they want to practice extreme version of Islam without consequences. This is in Europe, like in France. France sold out some of its national sovereignty. The interesting part, it's not.
Canada is doing the same.
But here's why this doesn't work in the U.S. We aren't going to give up our no-go zones and to say, well, you cannot have this. Now, they will never fully get that. Now, it is kind of problematic that they'll kick and they'll scream, and every single time you try to go after the Islamic community, the first thing they'll tell you, and they invented this term, you're Islamic phobic. Think of it like you're misgendering and you want to go against the trans community, you're transphobic. Guess what? They think that racism, calling someone racist, shuts down any debate. This is one thing. This is also something Glenn's talked about.
In Canada, that's what happens.
You got to think
it does shut down the
like Dearborn, Michigan, and some of these Somali communities. Elin Omar is literally quoting this exact same playbook, by the way. She's calling it the equivalent to the oppression that the Jews faced, or during World War II, going after the Japanese because they were part of the attack on Pearl Harbor. It's something very akin to they're using our system against us. Now, this is the same thing liberal people have done. This is the same thing a lot of funding organizations do. A lot of people willingly do their part. You don't have to convince them. That's the thing about color revolutions. You only need a small segment of the population. That's why I talked about the Mamdani election earlier. They know if they get enough of their people in a district, right, they can maintain control of that because people don't vote.
Tragic. Anyway, let's play more.
And I think they're wrong. I think I'm seeing a lot of energy in Washington, D.C. I'm very encouraged and excited about it. We'll wait and see what's done, but I think it's absolutely necessary for the future of the country.
I mean, at some point, it's the Insurrection Act, isn't it? At some point, if you can say that they are funding these organizations that are trying to overthrow the stability of the United States, that's a whole different ballgame. And the rules change when that happens.
Yeah, the rules do change. And look, it's interesting to me that going back to January 6th, how eager so many people on the left were to say, oh, this is insurrection. We're going to use the Insurrection Act. We're going to use all of these sort of political crimes based on an event where, sure, there were people that hit cops and trespassed and did things they shouldn't do. But this was not an organized effort to overthrow the government. But they wanted to use this act somehow to do that. What we are dealing with in this particular case is not a individual incident where there was excess and people made some dumb mistakes. What we're talking about is an organized, consistent effort that has been taking place now over the course of several years that is using violent weapons, things like Molotov cocktails. Law enforcement officers have been shot. This is much more of a clear-cut case of the Insurrection Act than anything ever related to January 6th was. So if they are prepared to be honest about it, which they're not, they would recognize that this is the clear insurrection we're talking about, not what happened on January the 6th.
Peter, I only have about 80 seconds. Can you talk to me a little bit about NGOs that maybe were getting money from the government? Have you found any evidence of that? I mean, this is what USAID does all around the world, is this kind of thing. Are we seeing any government money going to any of this?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, Glenn, we are working on a research project. I don't have the final details yet. I'm glad to come by and talk to you about it when we are. But actually, the tens of millions of taxpayer dollars in the United States right now that are going to radical Islamist groups
It's kind of crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And because it's you guys, the USA, you know what? I cannot imagine how much us.
No,
Canada
this is what I
we are
said
getting.
too. I did on my channel. I did
Crazy.
the one with Sorter going over it, which is a section. The real primer is when he finally talked to Tommy Robinson. And there was another thing. He did the one, and I bring it to you. It's very much longer, and I have to find a way to edit out. He had to do 2 versions of it. It's why they do this Western jihad like they do.
I wouldn't be surprised if Canada contributes almost as much as the
because
USA because
they
we are so progressive.
Kept it secret, by the way. You remember I was telling you there's this weird Canada organization that was involved in the No Kings.
Yeah.
And if you look up these organizations, and I have a list of it, and as I said, I still have it. I meant to do like a stream on like the whole thing on Neville Royce Town. He started a whole entire media center with Breakthrough Media, which is a popular YouTube channel, but many people don't know that is linked to Neville Royce Singham, which is strange, isn't it? And this is just something you learn, and a lot of people might be blind to it, you know? It's weird, but hey.
It's sad, but yeah.
The thing is, how do you think a lot of Islamic organizations
I was shocked about it as well, but I mean, tens of millions of dollars going to radical Islamist groups. These are Islamist groups where the leaders, call Jews cockroaches, that talk about the need to overthrow Western civilization. So yes, we are finding that.
Peter, as always, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As you know, we have been following this story of revolution before anybody believed that anyone in our government could possibly be involved, or any Democrat or neighbor. We've told you this was the plan. I told you that the Democratic Party would be eaten by the left, and we have seen it. It's in the final, carving up and eating of that right now. We'll continue to follow it and show you what we can find, and share it also with those in power that might be able to do something, because hopefully we can stomp this out before it is too late. We'll see you tomorrow on radio from Dallas. Good night, America.
Yep. So that was a very interesting. So I guess this closes off the show for tonight. So thank you for sharing this video with me.
I don't, contrary to popular belief, I don't look at brain rot on the side, because here's the thing about a lot of these talks about. When he does these things, these are his special. It's very weird in a way, you got to be really careful. A lot of his investigations they're hard to find. Now, do they have a slant sometimes? Yes. Like his whole thing of, you got to bear in mind, he tried looking into the Trump administration, and part of the reason I say Pam Bondi was a massive moron, oddly enough, comes from the fact of she was blocking even conservative organizations' freedom of base information acts. So you got to understand, a lot of this is, we have been at this, like a lot of stuff we're seeing. What is it, like Rules for Radicals? Obama era, it was Zelensky, Rules for Radicals. You were reading Carney's book. Carney flat out says what he wants to do, right? Carney is saying it. He lays it out. It's kind of like Hitler with Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
Or Marx. You listen to what they say.
And you look at what they do.
no one took people like these people serious.
Once we are backstage, I will share a bit of what's going on right now that you may not know about Canada downfall.
It's okay. You'll do your other. No, but I share this. The other thing I was going to show him is the other, because I come from the side. It's not of the internet where it does sound like we go hard against liberals right now. Trust me, if a pendulum were swayed the other way, because by far, I don't think that Trump is 100% correct. Like, just as example, I disagree with his Iran policy. Not to attack them, I think it's totally wrong. But when it comes to draining the swamp and going after the organizations, I have never seen a person in my lifetime. They hate this man. Their only last option is to make sure someone puts a bullet in him. I hate to tell you, Multi, you're a Canadian. Does this look weird? Like, this man is not the devil. They treat this man as the damn devil.
I know.
I as fucking God incarnate.
I know. Like, my taxes are paying for propaganda that are against America. But anyway,
it's weird. I say that.
I guess now this is the outro. So I will ask you, what do you have going on your end?
If plans go forward, I'm going to still try to stream somewhere between Monday through Thursday, somewhere between there, 3 game streams a week, hopefully. Schedule's a little bit waff, and then I have maybe a special stream Sunday night. So
sounds fun. Still, in my end of the internet, on Monday, if you are available, 5 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yes.
Mortal Kombat, the sequel, the second. I ended up watching it yesterday. That was a very fun movie. Tuesday, we got a Superman 4: A Quest for Peace in Superman Return, again at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesday, another discussion about Spectre and No Time to Die, again at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thursday, if the Dragon is also available, we will be talking about a Daredevil Born Again, Episode 7, Episode 8, and the Punisher special, again at 5 p.m.
I have hope. I'm waiting to... I should be available. I do think, I still stand by my statement. I don't think the Punisher thing, because when you see the finale of Daredevil,
I've seen spoilers by accident. I don't like it. Hopefully these spoilers are out of context and they were wrong. But don't say anything.
I'm not going to say it. It's going to be okay. We do know there's a season 3 already.
Yeah. And Friday, if the Dragon is available, Friday.
Yes, I should be.
8 p.m. this time around, a bit earlier. We will have another reaction stream. Probably something a bit different. You sent me lots of videos.
I sent you the other. There's a good thing, like, culture-wise, but the thing about when I sent you the other one, that I do recommend this to people if you want to learn, there's something along the vein of this, is Arch just did a thing on leftism is basically has a death cult, or what is left is progressive death cults, which sounds weird.
I will look into it. So
I sent it to you, but that is one that's weird.
I know, Dragon. Like you sent me a lot of things. I will look into it.
Of course, which one you want?
This will be Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. With this, thank you, everyone. Thank you, the Dragon. We will talk backstage. And with this, I am out. Have a great end of your weekend. And see you soon Monday or any other day you'd like to join us for a discussion about all sorts of things. And we are out. Have a great one, everyone.
31K, huh?